Appreciate that. Let's see, we had two people.
Cyrus,
Yes, ma'am.
can I ask, is Jenny in the room? Is that Jenny Mixon? Do you know? Like,
No.
okay.
Is Jenny and
Yes, it's Jenny Mixon.
oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was the other Jenny.
No,
I just wanted to make sure you were here. She's a friend of Ella's who
Ella. Yeah.
that I work with on Sighted Moon. And so so she couldn't be here and I wanted to make sure she was welcome. So
Okay.
Thank you.
she's in Texas there. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're excited to have you. Now that we know who you are.
Yeah, I don't know how to upload a picture and I can't do video right now. So anyway, it's okay.
I just wanted to make sure I made sure you were here because Ella wanted me to check. So
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Let me get my. My line. Yeah, got it. I poured my water, but I didn't put any lime in it.
Oh, I thought you were saying wine. I thought, man, water and wine. That's
If you'd have known that, you'd have got some of it.
okay. Yeah, I'll stop that.
Okay, all right, let me.
Okay, can you hear me? Oh, we got feedback. Okay. One, two, 1, 2. Okay. Can you all hear me?
yep,
Yes.
sounds good.
Yep. Okay. Okay, I'm Joe Dumond. Welcome to sightedmoon.com. Oops, wrong platform. We got in here yesterday afternoon and I got the biggest bear hug I've gotten in a long time from this guy. Cyrus is sitting here and he doesn't look too tall on TV, but he is big. And I met Mark Webb the other day. He's also big. I'm big and I felt small beside both of them. So this is pretty awesome. So it's good to see him in person. He's just as cuddly and huggable as he seems on TV or on screen. We had a fight last night though.
I won.
He won. Actually, no, he didn't win. Vaughn won. They've given up their bed for me to sleep in. And both of them slept on the couches, not one couch, 2 couches. And I felt guilty all night sleeping there. And we argued over let me sleep on the couch or I'll even go sleep in the car. But they wanted to be the host. And yeah, we're gonna have a different fight here tonight. So, but they are super nice people, and I am honored to be here with them. Yeah, and Vaughn doesn't swing hard. She just talks really scary. And if you don't listen, she gives you that stink eye. And anyway, they're super nice people. I am so glad to meet. I haven't met Vaughn before today. I've only heard about her in the background. Super nice woman. So we started out 2 weeks ago, Thursday, I believe it is, from Ontario, Canada, and we were just going around. I wanted to share with the leadership of various groups the message I've come to understand because of the Sabbath and Jubilee cycles. That's the thing I teach, and it reveals how close we are. So Shane and Anita, I threw at them, here's my list of places I'm going, help me organize it. And they had no idea what I was doing. I just jumped in the car and left, and we've been talking on the phone ever since. But they've been doing a great job in helping to organize stuff and get meetings set up ahead. And it's not really planned. It's not really, I'm not saying going to say well organized, because it was me that organized it and I just dumped it on them. But I had certain people I wanted to go see, and in order to see them, I have to call their secretary. I can never get past the secretary. So I show up in person and then I get to see them. And that's what I've been doing. Our first meeting was with Samuel Graham. He's the Assemblies of Yahweh, one of the oldest, the Assemblies of Yahweh Sacred Name in North America. He's actually the first one. And he grew up in that church, so he's never been exposed to another church or Christian or false teachings, always grown up doing Torah. It's kind of neat. But he was gracious and sat there and listened to my presentation. He gave me an hour. We talked for almost 3, and I got to explain it to him. I was supposed to meet some other people in Missouri, and they canceled. I kept on going until I got to Oklahoma, and then I talked to Monty Judah, and Monty came back and we went out for lunch and we had a good talk, candid. Now Monty doesn't believe in the things that I believe in, and we differ on a number of issues. And I explained to him that, the baby toe, you look at it and what does it do? It can't clean out my ear and it can't pick my nose. What point is the baby toe? But the minute you cut it off, the body can't walk. And my point of this conversation with him was that we're all part of the body. We're all keeping the Sabbath and the holy days. Maybe we got different times, different calendars. And the body is fragmented and fighting with each other. And he came back and said, the body is fragmented and breaking up, which is sad to hear about the Hebrew roots movement and the messianic movement, or the messed up messianics, whatever you want to call us, Torah believers. So that was kind of disappointing, but Monty and I had a good long talk, and I left there having shared the message I've been sharing, just in point form, not going into detail, but learning that our Hebrew roots people are, I don't know what you call them, shrinking back at the time when they should be jumping forward, standing out. They're supposed to be the lights of the world, and right now they're all hidden underneath a basket. So I had seen that before, but he had confirmed it, and he's in touch with a lot more people than I am. So after Monty, I was supposed to head up to Colorado. I thought I had a meeting lined up there, and there's some confusion about that, and then it fell apart, and anything else that was being lined up just disintegrated. So I turned south. Oops, I forgot. I went to the Philadelphia Church of God, and I am out of the Worldwide Church of God and then out of the United Church of God. So I have a great love for those people. That's where I got my grounding, my basic training. And I wanted to go back and share this stuff with them. But they have this policy, it runs through all the churches of God. Unless you're an elder or the leader, you have nothing to contribute. And they do not take nothing from the bottom up, or especially if you're outside. If you're outside, you're anathema. If you've left the church, you're worse than anathema. So the pastor that came out to see me was not interested in hearing anything I had. And if I booked an appointment, it had to go through him. And I said, it's not going to go very far. He said, not really. So at least it was kind of being honest. So I went out to the park and I was going to make a video of that. I started to make a video of that. And they came out with another pastor to ask me to get off the property and not make any more videos in front of their auditorium. Okay, I'm not here to cause trouble, at least not yet. So I left, and I put in the video on my newsletter this week, what I did record, just to update everybody what's going on, what I'm trying to do. So with nothing going on in Colorado, I turned south, went down to Dallas, met Randy Cates, who's part of our team there, and spent Shabbat with him and his wife. Yes, he really does have a wife, and she's always in the background. So they're an awesome couple too. And because there was nothing lined up for the next week, I decided to go and see my dad out in Arizona. Went out there, and while I was there, I met Mark Webb. And that's why Cyrus is going to give me so much time here to talk today, because we don't have to share with Mark, who hogs the mic. Right? And I hope he's listening, because he hogs the mic. He's always talking. I said the same thing about Cyrus when I was being recorded with Mark. So Mark's going to release the recording I did with him, but I don't know when. I haven't seen it come out yet. And with Mark and Cyrus and I were good friends, and you know, we're good friends, and we keep 3 different calendars. We're not killing each other. We're not, you know, I don't hate them because they don't agree with me. I know I'm right. You know, they know I'm right, but you know, I can't fix them. But we're still friends. You know, the fingers they're different. They're on the same hand and they still work together, but they're different. So, and they're both bigger than me. So I got to be careful what I say. And then I came back to Randy. We had a meeting lined up that somebody arranged. I don't know who arranged it. It came out of the blue. Maybe Shane and Anita arranged it. This group that they knew down in Enchanted Oak, and they lived on Enchanted Lane. And I thought this was going to be an enchanted meeting. And it was funny. And Randy and I walked in there, and they had a setup. They had a video guy, another guy that knew how to do tech stuff that I don't have a clue about. A great big fat cable going from one TV to the next, and another cable for me to plug into, which put my PowerPoint right on the TV. And I said, how did they do that? That was so simple. And then they had a Zoom meeting or a video stream. They were well organized, and they were Torah observant, and they were polite, and they were blessed, and they were just a super nice group of people. And Randy and I both came out of there higher than a kite, because we met a group of nice brethren, and that was awesome. And they recorded the whole meeting, and that was awesome. And they were so glad to see us, and that was awesome. And because I'm pretty much hated everywhere I go, and the people that are canceling, they don't really want anything to do with me. So to have this happen was just a big boost to the ego, and to be hugged again by real people was nice, very nice. So one of the ladies there, I believe it was Dale from Abilene, said, why don't you get on GLC? And I said, I've tried to get on GLC before, and they kicked us off. Didn't want nothing. We were getting ready for an interview, and then they kicked us out of the interview. That was just a week or two before Keith Johnson got his show canceled. And so there's a lot of politics behind the scenes that you don't see and you don't understand, because of our relationships with certain people from years ago in Israel who got into GLC. It is what it is. So I've managed to make a lot of people mad at me for teaching Torah in the past. So I said, it ain't going to work. And I wrote it off, and I left, and Randy and I were talking and how great this meeting was, how much fun it was, and how good the people were. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to call GLC. It's 10 o'clock at night. They're not going to answer the phone. I'll just call GLC. Let's see what happens. I'll just get the prayer line or the book. They're trying to sell a book line, and you can't get nothing through those two lines. So I call them, and it gave me an option to leave a message. So I left a message, and I told them what I was doing, traveling across Texas and teaching about the Jubilee cycles and how they reveal end time prophecy. Not much more than that. Well, maybe something about the abomination. And okay. So the next morning, I'm on my way to Cyrus, and I get a phone call from GLC, a real person. I never talk to a real person. I always get voicemail or that operator that never helps you or passes on your message. Anyway, she talked to me for a little bit and was kind of interested, couldn't understand what I was talking about. And we talked for a half hour as I explained what I'm teaching. And then I suggested, hey, they recorded us yesterday. It's a fresh recording just yesterday. Would you like a copy of that? And she said, yes, I will watch that and I will pass it on to the producers, and they'll decide whether or not they want to continue further. And the whole thing started, again, I said to Jehovah before I made the phone call, the same thing I've been saying since I left home. Open the doors you want open, close the doors you want closed, and all the doors to the churches of God seem to be closing. I can't get into any of them. And then this one opened up with GLC.
Who is GLC?
God's Learning Channel. They're out of, I think, Midland, Texas. Yeah, God's Learning Channel, Midland, Texas. It's a Christian show, but they're also Christian Messianic. And so there's that. They called, and
So I'm a little confused.
Go ahead. Confused person, go ahead. You can speak.
Sorry, I didn't know I wasn't muted. I am thoroughly confused though most of the day, but thank you. Sorry.
What are you confused about?
Nothing.
So you're
I'm
not
good. I'm at work, so I'm double tasking. Confused
okay.
about something here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, I presented it to him. I'm trying, okay. So then I said, okay, let's get the videotape. And I started calling Anita to do it because I was driving and to get that off to them. And so then I had to pull over because, it wasn't happening. And so I decided to call a Sabbath, what do they call Sabbath Fest? I forgot what they're called, sabbathfeastgoers.org. And I just took a shot. I called their office, and because that was what one of the groups was from, and just see if they could help. Because I wanted to get this to the lady right now while the iron was hot. And if Jehovah's opened this door, I'm charging through it, guns a-blazing, and let's go. So I've never had this opportunity before, and I've been trying, I know, 15, 17 years now. So finally I get through, and I found out that the people that are doing the recording were in the accident yesterday morning, and they're at the hospital. Now, they're not young people. They're in their mid to late 60s, I think. And she fractured her spine, and her name was Christy, and her husband was the video guy. I believe his name was Larry. I'm not sure about that. I'm terrible with names. So, okay, now, okay, do you push through and just get the video, you know, damn the torpedoes, damn the people? No, you got to have empathy for those who are doing this work. And she was hurt. And that's his wife. And she was asking sincere questions at the meeting. I remember her. She's just a little itty bitty person. So I stopped and prayed for her when I found out, and just left it with whenever they can get it. All my other messages that before that started to come back after, and I just called the lady back at GLC, and I said, there's been an accident, and the people that have this are in the hospital with a broken back, and it could be a while. And she started to pray for them as well, and said, no problem, whenever you can. So then I called James, who is looking after our website and my tech guy back in Canada. I said, can you send to this lady the 3 videos that we did down in the Philippines on 700 Club? So we sent her them, and that's where we're at. And that was as of yesterday, just before I got to Cyrus. So that was kind of exciting. So after I prayed for Christy, and after I called James, I went and prayed to Jehovah again. I says, because I've been saying to him, even when I left Canada, you cannot destroy the United States. Yes, they deserve to be destroyed. You cannot destroy them and not warn them. And my itty bitty voice is not warning them. Yeah, I'm going around trying to tell the different leaders, and, you know, they listen, don't listen, you know, they think I'm nuts. Okay, fine. But you're still not warning the general public. Amos says he does nothing unless he first warns his prophet. Doesn't say he doesn't have, it doesn't say he has to warn the people. That's me interpreting what he's telling me he's going to do, and me trying to tell Jehovah what he said, which is kind of, you know, ironic. But that's what I'm saying. You got to warn the nation. You got to warn the nation. And so that was what I was saying before I met Monty, and that's what I was saying after I met Monty, and that's what I was saying as we drove to meet the people in the Enchanted Oaks. He's got to warn the nation. So then the next day, GLC calls, and so then after that, I called TBN. I left a message there, and I called Zola Levitt Ministries, and I got a real voice there, a real person, which I never get, a real person. You always get voicemail. And she told me what to do and emailed me the proper way to contact them. And that while I was talking to Cyrus yesterday, TBN calls back with a real person telling me how to go about contacting them, because everyone's reduced people because of COVID. So now I just got to make a half-hour video to put on TBN. It's got to be a full production, so I've got to look semi-professional. And if Jehovah, I've never been able to get through. So is Jehovah opening these doors to these large ministries that are Christian across the nation? If he is, I'm banging on every door now. Every single one. I will be calling them every chance I get until I get a real person who will really try and help me get to the right people and stop with the secretary that just doesn't care and puts me in the trash bin. That's the exciting thing, that it's possible that Jehovah's now opened that door. So the thing I was saying with Cyrus, now Cyrus and I talked pretty near till midnight, and Vaughn last night till midnight, and I think they're probably waiting for me to get off the couch so they can go to sleep. But we talked about a lot of things, and talked about the brethren, talked about, you know, things that I don't get to talk about with other people, because you know, it's sometimes there's things you can't talk about, but I could talk about it with Cyrus last night. He became my confession booth. It Yeah, it was a very nice, very nice. So, but that's what it's led up to today. The Church of God group were supposed to meet in New Orleans, canceled the Shabbat at, well, Saturday night at 1 a.m. I still happen to be up at that time. I thought, well, that's kind of sneaky. Why wouldn't you call me and just say you're going to cancel? But no, they don't want to cancel you to your face. So that's where I was supposed to be on Wednesday. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and I will be at Beardsmore, Beaumont. And we got another small group to meet there, and then I'm going to head off to Florida. And in Florida, I got a group there to meet in the north, and hopefully I'm going to check in on Rico in the south, in the mid south, and there might be another group in St. Petersburg. And then I'm heading up to Charlotte, then Kentucky, then Tennessee, then Pennsylvania, and maybe back to Denver after that. We'll see. And then back home. And when I get back home, I spend a little time there, and then I'm off to the Philippines to continue to promote this there, which we were doing quite well before I came home. I spent 2 months in the Philippines, or 8 weeks, not 8 weeks, 7 weeks in the Philippines, August and September. So I'm pretty much flat out sharing this message. And so what I'm going to share with you today is that message. And because you guys are in Cyrus's group, and some of you even know me personally, and those of you that are going to listen to this later, I don't need to spell out all the details. I think you know them, or you should know them. If you open your Bible, you should know them. And Cyrus, if I get too fast or too far ahead, or even if you guys are listening, you don't understand what I'm talking about, stop me and I will explain. As I say to my group, there are no stupid questions except the one that you don't ask. So if you got a question, don't be afraid to ask. So I teach about the sabbatical and Jubilee years, and I prove when they are. And that's important to understand, that you can prove when the sabbatical and Jubilee years are. And that's 2 Kings 19:29. This year you shall eat what grows of itself, and next year you shall eat what grows of the same. And in the third year you shall plant and sow and harvest. So you did not plant and sow in the first year or the second year. What year is that? There's only one time when you have back-to-back sabbatical years, and that's when you have the 49th and the 50th year. So when Hezekiah was told this by Isaiah, and you can read it in Isaiah as well, I believe it's Isaiah 35. And there's another place, I think it's 2 Chronicles, I think as well. I don't usually use those, so I forget. But what Jehovah was saying to Hezekiah is, although the Assyrians have you surrounded, you will not go into captivity this year. You're going to eat your own food of your own land. You're going to do the same next year. And in the third year, you're going to plant and harvest, which means you're still going to be here 3 years from now. That was the message he was given to Hezekiah. Sennacherib went there. The next morning, 180,000 of his men were dead, and he went back to Assyria with his tail between his legs. But he wrote on a stele his conquest of Israel. And he wrote how he defeated them, how he destroyed Lachish, and how he destroyed these other ones, how he fought against the Egyptians. And he recorded all this, but when it comes to Jerusalem, he said he caged up Hezekiah like a bird in a cage and took a great big tribute. He wrote this on 3 stelae. One of them is in the Chicago Museum, the other one is in the London Museum, and the third one is in the Jerusalem Museum. All 3 are written in stone, all say the same thing. This date is one of only 2 dates when we can connect the Israelite or Jewish kings to a known chronology of history so that we know when they existed. And there's the other date is the Battle of Karkar in 853, and this date in 701 BC. So 701 BC is the year you shall eat what grows of itself. That's the 49th year. And next year is the 50th year. You shall eat what grows of the same. So that's 701 and 700. And just from that one verse alone, you can reach every sabbatical year throughout history by counting by 7. And you can reach every Jubilee year from 700 BC by counting by 49. Now, some people argue that you got to count by 50. That's okay. Prove it. And we now have 89 known sabbatical and Jubilee years that Sighted Moon, that'll be my next book coming out next year, I hope. 89 sabbatical year proofs, so that everybody will have these proofs and there'll be no more arguing and fighting about it. I should have wrote that book years ago, but I didn't. But that's what they are. We have 30 tombstones of Zohar. I've got the most extensive collection of tombstones right now. And all of the tombstones line up when you count by 7s. And they all line up when you count by 49s, because I think there's 4 tombstones in there referring to as a Jubilee year. And we also got 12 contracts based on a Jubilee year. And they all match. Every single one matches when you count by 7s or when you count by 49s, with the 50th year being the first year. When you count by 4950, then 1, 2, 3, none of them match. Okay, so you got to be able to prove it, and that's what we do. That's our motto at sightedmoon.com, prove all things. People don't like it when you do that because you break their pet theories and their theology. Okay, I don't care about your theology. I care about obeying Jehovah. So with that, now you jump into the Daniel 9 prophecy. Oh, okay, so we Genesis 6:3, before we go to Daniel 9, Genesis 6:3, there's going to be 120 Jubilee cycles. The word is 120 years, and that word is Shana, which means there's 120 Jubilee cycles. Okay, so 120 cycles, so 120 Jubilees. When you do the chronology from Genesis up to the Exodus, if you do it correctly, and there's 3 places people make mistakes, the year Shem was born, how old Abraham was, or how old his father was, Terah, was he 75 or 230? And Numbers 10 verse 11, they always miss Numbers 10 verse 11. So when you do that chronology, those are the places people have mistakes. So in our book, Remembering the Sabbatical Year of 2016, we explain every question that people ask about the sabbatical Jubilee years. Every question. We even explain the questions that most people don't even think of asking. And we answer them all. And we also address the period of the judges, the chronology of the judges. Nobody can figure out the chronology of the judges. It says in your Bible there was 480 years, but every other teacher from Josephus to Philo to every historian has a different number. There's no 2 people with 2 numbers the same. There's not a second witness to the 480 in the Bible. So because of that, I just said, okay, let's try and figure out another way. Because you can't do a continual chronology from the Old Testament to the new Gregorian calendar. And that's where most people get stumped. But when you do it according to the Jubilee cycles, you can figure this out. There's only 120. So that 120 has got to fit in there. So your equation's got to have all 120 in there. So my audience is getting up and leaving.
Right over here.
Yeah. So that's important to know, how to prove the Jubilee cycles when they are. We are now in the 120th. When you count Genesis up, the 50th Jubilee cycle will be the one that is just before the Exodus. So now the Exodus takes place in the 51st Jubilee cycle. If there's 120 and 50 have already gone by, that means there's only 70 left after the Exodus. That's 120. Okay, with that little clue, now we go to Daniel 9. 70 weeks are for your people. The word weeks is Shabuah. Shabuah is the female of the male word Shavuot, which is the Feast of Weeks. Daniel is talking about 70 Feast of Weeks, which is 70 times 49. It's not 70 times 7. Everywhere that same word is used throughout the Bible is talking about the Feast of Weeks, except for 2 scriptures, which talks about a 7-day week. But the majority, 80%, I believe it is, are saying the Feast of Weeks. So 70 Feast of Weeks is 70 times 49, 3,430 years. Okay, so prove it. Well, the proof comes in the next verse. Where it says in Daniel, let me just read it. Daniel 9:26. Daniel 9. Go back to the modern King James. 26. No, 25. Know therefore and understand. So we're supposed to know and understand that from the going out of the command. What's the command that went forth? It's not exercises, not Azaharias. It's the command from Jehovah to Moses in Exodus 3 and Exodus 4. There's 7 times that Jehovah says, go and get my people. Go. I can't talk. Go. I don't think I want to. Go. He has all these excuses and Jehovah just gets mad and says, go. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command from Jehovah to Moses, and I know that's revolutionary for a lot of people. That's why I put it in here. To rebuild Jerusalem, to build Jerusalem. When did Yeshua ever build Jerusalem? When did he build the walls? When did he build the roads? Okay, so if he's a wall builder, that's not a carpenter's job, that's a mason's job. If he's a road builder, that's not a carpenter's job, that's a, what do you call a road builder? Common construction labor guy, right? The street shall be built again and the wall. It says right in that same verse, even in trouble times of affliction. There was no times of affliction during Yeshua's time. It was a peaceful time. Yes, they were occupied by the Romans, but it was peaceful. Wasn't a time of affliction. So what is this talking about? So the next part of this is to Messiah the Prince. So here, everyone write this down. Messiah the Prince is not Yeshua. My Messiah is a king. He was never a prince. Who's Messiah the Prince? And can I share screen?
Sure.
So if you all know how to take a screenshot, I'm going to give you a screenshot here right now. Let me pull this up first. Go here. I want to do this. No, file. Recent file. Open recent. There it is. Oh, come on. Zoom. Share screen. No, I'm not able to open it yet.
Hang on.
You make me a co-host?
No, I'll just make you host.
No, I don't want to control this thing. Okay. There we go. Okay, so my Messiah is a king, never a prince. There we go. So here's some scriptures for you to read. And you can write them down or you can take a screenshot. That's Shift Command 3. Hit Shift Command 3 and you can save that. So that's Isaiah 32:1, Jeremiah 30 verse 8. But the one scripture I really want to point out is Isaiah 37 verse 4. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and there shall be one shepherd of them, and they shall walk in my judgments and obey my laws and do them. That's not the one. It was 34. Where's 34? There it is, 34:24. So let me see, did you get that first screenshot? Okay, here's the next screenshot. Take it, Shift Command 3. Ezekiel 34:24, and I, Jehovah, shall be their God, and my servant David, a prince among them. I, Jehovah, have spoken. King David is the prince. He's Messiah, the prince. Okay, y'all got those scriptures written down? This is telling you that King David is going to rule during the 7th millennium, not Yeshua. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. Read the scriptures. Here they are. Tell me Jehovah didn't say this. Okay, there's the first bunch. Here's the next bunch. Again, I'm just letting you have time to write them down. Okay. So King David is going to be our king during the 7th millennium. Know therefore and understand that from the going out of the command from Moses, or from Jehovah to Moses, to restore and to build Jerusalem, to Messiah the Prince, to King David, shall be 7 weeks. So Christianity takes these 7 weeks because they don't know what to do with it, and adds it to this 62. It says 69 weeks to get to when Jesus, this is the 490-year prophecy. Well, it doesn't say 69 weeks, it says 7. They never count the 7. I'm going to count to 7. You're going to count to 7. And I'm going to do it with you on screen again. Let me just make sure I got my article ready. Is it that one? Nope. This one? Nope. Okay. Get a new one. And so if you want this, you go to sightedmoon.com, you go down and you see library archives, and then you go down to chart archives, and you click on chart archives, and you'll get this next page. It has blood moons and sabbatical year charts. You don't want it. You want the sabbatical and Jubilee charts updated 2019. Make sure it's the 2019 one. Click on it. It comes up and it looks like this. Share screen. And this is good. I can see your screen, so I know what you got. So we go back. Oops, come on, get out of there. Let me put that down there. And we're going to go back here. Okay. So you see the 50th year. No, I'm looking at your little screen. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah. You see in the middle in the red is the 50th year highlighted in yellow. You see my mouse right there? That's the 50th year. That's 50 Jubilees since the creation of Adam. Over here, 1379 is the Exodus date. 1377 is the start of the 40 years curse. 1337 BC is when they entered the promised land. That's the chronology.
Joseph, I put the link in the chat if anybody wanted it
Okay.
for your chart.
Yeah, you'll have 11, Joe.
Well, you made me host. Okay. So that's the 50th Jubilee cycle from Adam. And you can do the chronology, double check my math and see if I'm right. So now we're going to count, because it says 7 weeks or 7 Shabuah, or 70 times or 7 times 49, which is 343 years. So we count 1 right here. There's 2. Here's 3. Here's the 4th Shabuah. Here's the 5th Shabuah. Here's the 6th one. Here's the 7th one. After 7 Shabuah shall be Messiah the Prince, shall be King David. That puts us into the 8th Shabuah. King David was born in 1040 BC. What? I got that right. And he was anointed by Samuel when he was a young boy as a shepherd. So that's sometime in here. We don't know the year. Then he's anointed by all of Judah in 1010 BC when he becomes king over all of Judah. 7 years later, he becomes king over all of Israel. That's 1003 BC. Mashiach is the word that's been translated into Messiah. It means anointed. It does not mean savior. It means anointed. I'm looking at Cyrus. He's sitting here in his underwear and his shirt. You can't see below the screen, but I can. He's also anointed. He's anointed. I'm anointed. Those of us who are obeying God are his anointed. But it's more than that. Even those who are the descendants of the 12 tribes, no matter what language, color they are, if were descendants, they're also his anointed. Because then let's go back to Daniel. I'll come back to this screen here in a minute. Let's go back to Daniel. Oops, right here. Let me share that screen with you. No, this one. Zoom. Share. Which one is it? Oh, there it is. So I use eSword, and I use this is the modern King James version I'm using. So we're in Daniel 9:25 again. From Messiah the Prince, that's now you understand Messiah the Prince is not Yeshua, it's King David. We've just counted it after 7 weeks. You've now done it. You've just done it with me. And you're saying, what? It's supposed to be Yeshua. It's supposed to be Jesus. How do you do that? You just did it yourself with me. Then it says after 62 weeks. So now on top of the 7, we got to add the 62. Who are we talking about? We're talking about King David, Messiah the Prince. That's the subject of this verse. So I'll get out of here. I'll go back to here. So here we are, Messiah the Prince after 7 weeks. And now it's talking about Messiah the Prince again after 62 weeks. So now you just start counting. We continue the count. There's 8, 9, 10, 11. And I'm going to go real quick. Now you'll notice all these different colors. Here's 31 AD. That's when Yeshua was killed. And it's in red. And I've got it. We put a cross there for the Christians. I know it's a tree. I get it. But down in the footnotes below it, these are all what happened at each of those colored dates. So we explain what the colors mean below. If you look at the 30th one here, these are all blood moon dates, right? And during the persecution times, we had recorded the blood moons. Just checking things, experimenting, looking. So anyway, continue the counting. And as we do this, counting each Jubilee cycle, you can double check me, we don't miss any. And we come to the 69th Jubilee cycle, and at the end of the 69th Jubilee cycle, that is the year 1996. So from the going forth of the command to Messiah the Prince shall be 7 Jubilee cycles and 62 Jubilee cycles for Messiah the Prince. Where's King David? He's about to be raised out of the grave. He's about to be brought back to life during the 70th Jubilee cycle that we're in now. Our Mashiach, our Messiah, the Prince, is about to be raised up. That is exciting. If you understand the holy days, and we got a book to help you to understand called the Mystery of the Jewish Rapture, 2033. Oh, no, he's setting dates, 2033. Yes. Not because I wanted to set a date, but because that's what the Sabbatical Jubilee years reveal. And when you understand the holy days and what they reveal, you'll understand that King David can only be raised up at one time. So we're going to go. Do you want to go into that? You want to do that right now? Okay, so we're going to go into that right now. The rapture. Ooh, the mystery of the rapture. Okay. Let me just pull it up on the screen here. So I'll get out of this. So remember, we're going to come back here. And stop share. Share again. Share screen. Go to this one. Okay. So we're going to go now. Let's go to Matthew 27. No, let's go to Leviticus. I'm going to go to Leviticus first. Let's go to Leviticus. Leviticus 23, we're going to talk about the holy days. And the holy days. So we're going to go to, there's the Sabbath, there's Passover, right? Always a big controversy at Passover. The first feast of first fruits. Here you go. And Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you have come into the land which I give to you, and shall reap the harvest of it, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your land, of your harvest, to the priest. This year, Randy, Cates, and I went to Israel to witness when the barley would be Aviv. Okay, but we're not Jewish, so a lot of people didn't listen to us. That's okay. Verse 11, and he shall wave the sheaf before Jehovah to be received for you. On the next day after the Sabbath, the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. When is that? It's the morrow after the Sabbath, during the days of unleavened bread. So that's Sunday morning. When is this wave offering done? It's done at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. That's when the daily offerings are made, 9 and 3 every day. I forgot what that's called. Hebrew name. Do you remember that? No. Okay.
No.
The Minka offerings. I'll eventually get to it, but we might all die by the time I remember it. Okay. So I got a question for you. Why is Jehovah so particular about the grain offerings? Why is he so concerned about getting his first cut first? Why? Like, he's Jehovah. He could have anything he wants. He just wanted the very first of and the barley is what the first fruit here. How much barley do you need? A wave offering is a big salad bowl or a fruit basket. That's what it is. You take the sheaves. So here's what they do. This is what you get out of the Talmud. It tells you how to do the wave offering. You go out, because the Pharisees are recording it, they say you can do this any day of the week, but the Sadducees said it had to be done after the Sabbath during the days of unleavened bread. So they would go out on the Friday and they would mark the barley that was ripe, because sometimes some of the barley wasn't ripe. One patch is ripe, that patch ain't ripe. So they would mark it with a ribbon. And then after the Sabbath, the priest would come out. And it was a big ceremony, and it's recorded in the Talmud. And the priest would say, is this the barley that we are? Now I'm going to get out of this. I want to come back and see your faces now. Okay, can everyone put their cameras on? Come on, let's all do this together. I know you don't want to be embarrassed. That's why I'm here, to embarrass you.
Everybody's got to have a purpose.
Yeah. They're not going to put it on. Okay, I'll put mine on. You can see me do it. I'll embarrass myself. I'm the high priest. Is this the barley that I'm to cut? And they all say, because it's a big ceremony, the whole crowd is a big celebration, and all the crowd says, yes, this is the barley that you are to cut. And he does it 3 times. Is this the barley that I'm to cut? Yes, this is the barley I'm to cut. And that's what you're supposed to say, so I don't hear anyone saying it. Is this the barley I'm supposed to cut?
Yeah.
Okay, I got 2 people here. Awesome. Has the sun set? Has the sun set? Because it has to be done after the Sabbath, otherwise you'd be working on the Sabbath. Has the sun set? Yes, the sun is set. Has the sun set? Yes, the sun is set. Has the sun set? Yes, the sun is set. Okay. Is this the sickle I'm to cut the barley with? Yes, that's the sickle you're to cut the barley with. Is this a sickle? Yes, that's a sickle. Is this a sickle? Yes, 3 times every time. Is this the basket I'm to put the barley in? Come on, just cut the barley, for crying out loud. And is this the basket? Yes, this is the basket. Is this the basket? Yes, this is the basket. Cut the barley already. What? There's another question you ask. Oh, then he says, shall I cut the barley? Ah, yes, cut the barley. So he does this 3 times. It's a big celebration. It's a momentous day. Again, ask yourself the question, why does Jehovah care about the barley? Why do we have to give him the very first? Jehovah doesn't eat barley. The barley was mostly a grain for the animals. right? So then they take the barley, they cut it, put it in the basket, they take it back to the temple. Now, when you cut the barley, something happens right away. The barley can be in a dough stage, which means it's still soft. When it's in the dough stage, you can't do anything with it. But overnight, so we used to cut hay, back, my grandfather used to cut hay or cut grains, and they would cut it with a scythe or they cut it with a sickle, and they would put it into what we call a stoke. And you take the stokes, and that's a big bundle of grain, and you stand it against itself in the field overnight. And you cut it off at the bottom. You don't just cut off the head, you cut it off at the bottom. And you put it into a stoke, into, I call it a stook, into a big bundle of them. That's the stoke. I think that's right. That's the proper word. And it would dry up overnight. As it dries up, the grain is saying, I'm about to die. I need to get ready quickly so I can plant again. So it sucks up all the energy out of the, oh, there's two people waiting. I'm sorry. It sucks up the energy out of the grain or out of the stalk to make that seed firm. Now you can take the seed the next day because it's now gone from dough to firm or semi-firm. You can roast it in a pan. This is where you get caramel from. You roast it in the pan to take the rest of the moisture out. Once you've got the moisture out, then you take the grain or the seed, and you grind it up into coarse flour. It says coarse flour, not fine flour. Coarse flour, you then add frankincense, and do not let your salt be lacking. Now that's Leviticus 2. That's how you prepare the wave offering of the barley. And then you go and you take a handful and you throw that handful in the fire. If I remember correctly, you throw a handful in the fire, and then the priest is to eat the rest of it, all the priests. It's most holy. The common people aren't allowed to eat this. Okay, so that's a barley. That's okay. So what does that mean? What does it represent? Why is Jehovah so concerned about the barley? Okay, so I'll go back to my share screen. We're going to go back to, so that's Leviticus 23 about the barley. Leviticus 2, I'll just show that to you. Leviticus 2, laws for the grain offering. So here's the laws for the grain offering. All right. Okay, let's go to Matthew 27. And we're going to go down to verse 50. And crying with a loud voice, Yeshua released his spirit. When did that happen? This is Passover. Okay, now you know the time. Then the very next verse, 27:51, and behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked, and the rocks were sheared. Verse 52, and the tombs were opened, and many of the bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep arose. They didn't rise, they didn't come to life, they were raised up. These saints were being marked, the same as the barley was being marked. This is, when did this happen? This is Wednesday.
When he died.
When he died.
Yeah.
This is Wednesday afternoon when he died.
Thursday night.
So then Wednesday night and Thursday day is the first day in the grave. Thursday night and Friday day is the second day in the grave. Friday night and Saturday day is 3 days and 3 nights. It's not a Friday to Sunday. It's not a Friday to Monday. It's 3 days and 3 nights, and he was killed Wednesday afternoon. We know that because if you look at the crescent moon and you count from the crescent moon of that year in April, he died April 25th, 31 AD. the crescent moon had to be in a certain place in order to have a 14th on a Wednesday. We explain all this in our It Was a Riddle, Not a Command book. I'm doing my own little publishing here. It's a Wednesday. I'm allowed to sell stuff, right? So it's a riddle, not a command. And I was really impressed to hear Cyrus say how much he liked that book. So that's awesome when you hear somebody else say that.
It's more of a, I was expecting to just take into consideration just about Yom Teruah.
Are you muted?
It's a whole a treatise on Torah.
Yeah.
So if you've got somebody that's new to Torah or got questions about Torah, you might want to consider giving them this book because it walks them through Torah, not just the riddle. It's a riddle, not a command. The whole treatise of Torah, and I think it's a good treatment. I really do.
That's awesome. I hope we record that and I'll start publishing that, just that little segment there. Yeah, it's explaining no man knows the day of the hour. And Christians are always throwing that at me. No one knows the day of the hour. Therefore, you're a false teacher because nobody can know the day and the hour when the Messiah is coming. Well, it's a Hebrew idiom explaining the very day and hour he's coming.
Correct.
The obedient will understand, the disobedient will never understand because they don't keep the holy days. And that's a holy day. That's the Feast of Trumpets. It's the only feast day that's determined by a crescent moon. And when you don't know when the crescent moon is going to be seen, it's going to be seen on the 29th or the 30th day. That's why nobody knows the day or the hour except the Father. And even in the Hillel calendar, that's why they keep that feast day for 2 days, because they don't know. Anyway, back to Matthew 27. Verse 52. So that's the saints being marked. Verse 53. And they came out of the tombs when? After his resurrection on the third day, which was at the end of the Sabbath and the start of the first day of the week. Which one was it? Who cares? It was at the end. Pick a side. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And so day has been added. So these people that came out of the tombs went into the holy city and appeared to many. Okay. Next verse. Where'd they go? They went into the holy city. What happened to them? It doesn't say. You can keep reading and you can read all the other gospels. Nothing else is said about this miracle with all these people coming back to life. What happened to them? Did they die again? Was that the second death for the saints? Oh, no. Okay, so a lot of people believe, and we bring our Christian beliefs with us into this Torah walk. We believe that Elijah and Enoch are in heaven. Except there's one little problem. Yeshua said in John, I forgot what verse it says, no man has gone to heaven except the Son of Man who came down from heaven, which means Enoch and Elijah didn't go to heaven. Or they may have gone up in the clouds, but they didn't go to Jehovah's heaven. What happened? Well, you go to the book of Hebrews, and it says Enoch and all these saints died in the faith. Whoops. I thought Enoch translated to heaven. What? Okay, let's not read the book of Hebrews anymore, so we can keep our theory about Enoch being in heaven. Let's not read what Yeshua said in John, because he said nobody's gone to heaven. The great debate between the house of Shammai and the house of Hillel back at that time was, what happens to you after death? Because they didn't know. They didn't know. Do you go to heaven? Do you go to the grave? Is this it? Is this our one shot? Is this our one kick at the can? What happens? They didn't know. It was a big debate. Yeshua even addresses some of that in some of his responses. Okay. Yeshua said to the thief on the tree, today you'll be with me in paradise. Except, did the thief on the tree go to heaven before Yeshua came out of the grave? No. The thief on the tree died. He was dead at least 3 days. He might have been one of those saints that came back out of the grave. but he did not come out of the grave before him. Paul says Yeshua came out and descended into the graves and came out and led a host of captives, not one captive, but multiple captives with him. The word captives are those who are dead or captured by Satan and are dead asleep in the ground. That's the only power Satan has over mankind, that he can make them die. Yeshua didn't make mankind to die. He made them to live. Okay, now what? There's Revelation says, I think it's 11, I'm not sure, 7 or 11. There's 24 elders in heaven. 24 elders in heaven. These 24 elders, if you look up the word elders, it means ancestors, people who lived before us. How did they get to heaven? So Jehovah's called you to be a king and a priest. He didn't call you to be an idiot. And we're not taking the idiots to run the kingdom of Jehovah in the 7th millennium or for the rest of eternity. He wants you to be able to think and figure things out. There's 24 elders, ancestors in heaven. Where'd they come from? The only place they could go get to heaven is when Yeshua led a host of captives with him out of the grave. Matthew is the only one who describes that. Mark, Luke, and John never mentioned, never even hinted at it. This is the most amazing thing. Everything that Jehovah's been saying in the Torah, he's going to do. He is going to raise us up from the grave and bring us to heaven with him. He's going to do that. When did he do it? Wave sheaf day. Because remember, Yeshua came out of the grave, and what does he say to Mary? Don't touch me. You got cooties. No, don't touch me. I've not yet ascended to my Father. And then the same day, on the first day, he's talking to the apostles. Here, stick your fingers in me. See, I'm real. Look. What changed between Mary and the apostles? The wave offering at 9 a.m. when the saints and Yeshua ascended to heaven as the barley is waved, as an example of all mankind, then the rest of the harvest can take place for the barley after the wave sheaf day. That's the miracle of the barley. That's why you got to have barley for Passover. That's why the Hillel calendar, when they ignore the barley, they're ignoring this whole thing about Yeshua coming back to life. This is the most amazing thing that took place at that time. It's unbelievable. So now if we know what the wave offering did for these saints in 31 AD, when's the next wave offering? Shavuot. When is Shavuot? It's 50 days later. So what is Shavuot? It's about the wheat. Who are the wheat? We are the wheat. All the parables are about us. You know, the tares and the wheat that grows beside the road, and the wheat that grows in fertile. That's us. Which one are you? You get to decide. If you're the one growing by the road, pull up your roots and move to fertile ground. Start studying your Torah more. Stop using all the excuses of the world to choke you out. You get to choose. You're a mobile wheat. So move your feet. So if you're the wheat, you're the next wave offering. When is the next wave offering? That's the question. And I'll try and address that here in a bit. So that's why the grain offerings are important. What about all those rest of the people who never obey God? They're going to be raised up at the third Hag. So there's 3 Hags: Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. The third Hag is represented by the end of the 7th millennium, when the rest of the dead will be raised up and given a chance to obey them. And then if they don't, they're thrown in the fire, the lake of fire, with the false prophet and Satan. And then there's no more stuff after that. And then Jehovah is going to be with us forever. Okay. So, where was I? I was doing the charts. Where was I going? Wave sheaf day, charts. Oh, when was King David going to be brought back to life? Okay. Okay, I got to continue here for a moment. Okay, Luke says, I believe it's Luke 6. And I'm scrolling down here now to the flood. Right here, the flood is, oops, I got to share my screen. Sorry. The flood is 1656 after the creation of Adam. 1,656 years. And that just happens because I've already done it, works out to be 2181 BC. Luke says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the last days. Well, as it was in the days of Noah, people think they had homosexuality, bad people, killing, murders, all this stuff. And they could be right. But, you know, they could say that as it was in the days of any other person. What was different about Noah? The flood of Noah took place in the 4th year of the 6th sabbatical cycle. The 6th sabbatical cycle, the 4th year. As it was in the days of Noah. Then you scroll up and it says, as it was in the days of Lot. Here's Lot, 1 year before Isaac is born, as it was in the days of Lot, which is 2,047 years after the creation of Adam. And it's the 3rd year of the 6th sabbatical cycle. Well, that's interesting. It doesn't say what I'm about to show you, but as it was in the days of Joseph, which has the 7 years of plenty here in purple, and the 7 years of famine here in red, they also end in the 3rd year of the 6th sabbatical cycle. Now, that's not mentioned in the Bible, so I can't use it as a witness, but I have it as a witness in the sabbatical and jubilee cycles. So as it was in the days of Noah, right? As it was in the days of Lot, right? So shall it be in the last days. Well, we know these are the last days. What does that mean? So the 3rd year is 2033 and the 4th year is 2034. Now, if you've heard Cyrus and Mark and I talk, we're always asking about this time period that in front of us, and up till that time, that's the only time I'm interested in. After that, Mark goes off and talks about stuff. I don't care. It's irrelevant to me, but I hope he's not listening. But 2033 lines up with the 3rd year of Lot, and 2034 lines up with the 4th year of the flood. So then I do an experiment. I understand the holy days quite well. I know that the 8th day has a lot of similar teachings to the Jubilee year. So I just did an experiment because everything that happened at Passover took place precisely as it was supposed to do, but we didn't understand it until Yeshua died. So if we count the holy days going back, how do the fall holy days fit this end time scenario? So 2045 is the 8th day. Then the 7 days of the Feast of Sukkot here in blue. And I just made it the day for a year. 2038 would be the first day of Sukkot, which is a holy day. What does that mean in here? Is that when the wedding's going to take place? Could be, maybe, I don't know. Then 5 days before that is the Day of Atonement. That would be 2033. Now that's lining up with the days of Noah and the days of Lot. Yes, it's not a year's difference, it's only 6 months difference. So I wonder if I'm on to something. Then 2024 would be the 10 days before that for the Feast of Trumpets. And 2024 is only 2 years or a year and a bit away from us now. A year and 2 months. And I think, you know, if you've been watching Cyrus for a while, sightedmoon.com started teaching this in 2005. We're the only ministry that's been telling you that watch 2020, something big is coming in 2020. And I believed it was a sword because there's 4 curses here. First curse of terror, second curse of extreme weather, third curse of plague, fourth curse of swords, famine, and plague. So because the sword is mentioned first, I've been yelling sword, sword, sword. Well, something happened in 2020, all right. It was called a plague. It wasn't just in one little spot, it was around the entire world. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. So I'll get to that shortly. But we also now have famine. 345 million people are on famine row. And it's about to get worse. Because the fifth curse, see, we've got all these curses correctly in order here. The fifth curse, Leviticus 26, is you shall eat your sons and your daughters for food. Cannibalism. And this is why I'm going out and telling people this, because of that fifth curse. So on the Day of Atonement, which lined up with 2033, what is to happen there? That is the day that Satan will be locked away. That's what that day represents. So if that day is atonement in 2033, that's when Satan would be locked away that year. But that's also going to take place at the end of the tribulation. So if that takes place at the end of the tribulation, that's when the 144,000 saints are changed and ascend to heaven. If they're changed in the twinkling of an eye, that means the dead have already raised up first at the same time. When does that take place? That takes place at Shavuot, which we've just shown you. And that takes place at the end of the tribulation, which is 2033, just before Satan is locked away. Then that means the tribulation began 3.5 years before that, which is Passover 2030. Passover 2030 is the start of the what is called Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of return. When the Torah, half Torah portion of that day is return, O Israel, return and bring the Torah scrolls with you. Okay, so a lot of these things that we are doing by tradition are now starting to make sense. The 2030, at the start of the tribulation, that's when the two witnesses are killed. And they've already been preaching for 3.5 years of no rain anywhere on the earth. That brings you back to 2026. Again, in the fall, atonement, trumpets, somewhere around there. 2026 is just 3 years and 2 months from now. I've already got 2020 right. I was wrong about the sword, but I still got 1 more year for the sword to arrive, because it arrives in the somewhere in the 7-year cycle. Israel was taken out in the 6th year of this 4th sabbatical cycle. Yeshua was killed at the end of the Wednesday, late afternoon, which is again the 4th day of the week, lining up with the 4th sabbatical cycle. We're not done yet. We still got another year to go. So King David, I believe, will be raised up at Shavuot in 2033, at the end of the tribulation. Because it also says that King David will lead them as they march back, go back to Jerusalem. And I believe that is Micah. I want to say Micah. I'm not 100% sure. Jehovah will lead King David, who will lead Israel back to Jerusalem. And they're leading them from what's the rock? Starts with a B. Bezor, not Bezor. I forgot the name of the place. Someplace in southern Moab. A lot of people think it's the place where all the tourists go now. Whatever that, I forget. Huh?
Petra?
Petra, but it's not Petra. It's north of Petra. There's another place. I think it starts with a B. And he comes back there. It's a sheepfold. He's got blood on his clothes. And then he leads Israel. He leads David back to Jerusalem. I forgot
Basra. It's Basra.
Basra. Thank you. Thank you. It sucks getting old.
It does.
So Basra. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So now let's get back to our, we've got David here coming out at that time. We got Daniel 9. We're going to go back to Daniel 9 because there's more to learn in Daniel 9. I got to get out of this and go back into this. That one, come up. So we've now shown you Daniel 9, right here. After Messiah the Prince, 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So you now know that the street shall be built with again. King David is said to have rebuilt the wall. And the wall here is the rampart, which means the defensive wall, which includes the bulge in the bottom. It includes the Milo, which is a big trench in front of the wall, which is like a moat, where in Scotland they have moats with water in them. Israel didn't have water, so they were all dry. Shechem has a wall with a moat that you can see right now to this day. King David is said to have restored the wall and rebuilt the walls and the Milo. King David's lining up with everything this verse says is going to be done. Now, verse 26. And after 62 weeks, so everything I'm talking about, these 4 verses, is explained in our book called The 2300 Days of Hell. It's a 750-page book. It's got tons of footnotes. It's a big, heavy-duty book. It goes through each one of these verses, verse by verse, line by line in Hebrew, so that you can understand it. Again, another plug, and I'm not feeling guilty about doing that one iota. Verse 26, and after 62 weeks, so this is now after 1996, Messiah shall be cut off. Who's Messiah here? The word Messiah is Mashiach. The word Mashiach is anointed. After 62 weeks, I'm adding the word the anointed shall be cut off. Who are the anointed? We already said it. The DNA descendants of Israel. Okay, they are going to be cut off. That does not mean they have to know Torah. That does not mean they keep Torah. That just means they are the 12 descendants of Israel. Now, I'll just stop this. I got to show you something else right now. We're going to go to my slides. Let me see. Do I have it on this one? Okay, sure enough, I won't be able to find it because I'm trying to go too fast. And Cyrus is a linguist. So yes, I do want to find it. I'm going to take a moment and find this because I have a linguist right here with me. And this would be an awesome thing to find and do it with him. So right now is the time to go for a pee break. If you got to go for a pee break, hurry up while I search for this. I'm going to find this because this is now, because I got Cyrus here, this is something I should do. Oh, there it is.
I don't remember.
Okay, going to go back here. I hope you've done your pee. Now we're going to get back and show you this. So Cyrus is a trained linguist. Tell him your credentials here, so that anyone doesn't know does, because that's an amazing story.
I was selected by the National Security Agency 2 weeks after I went into the military, and they told me I was going to be a linguist. I wanted to be a helicopter engine mechanic. They were very persuasive, so I became a linguist. My first language was Vietnamese. Went to Southeast Asia, came back, and I wanted to, I went to advanced Vietnamese, and then I wanted to slide over into Hebrew, but they gave me Arabic instead. So I studied Arabic and then specialized in Egyptian. I went from Egyptian. I was deployed, went overseas, and then I worked with Aramaic speakers, which is kind of close. But if you stop and think of all the various dialects of French, sometimes you can't understand a word that people are saying. And that's the way it was with Aramaic and Arabic. It really is a different language.
Mhm.
And so I was trained primarily in those language groups: Vietnamese, Arabic, and Aramaic.
So if I'm going to teach you something now that's not right, you're going to point it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think you've seen this before.
Okay.
Okay, maybe, but I don't think you have. Okay, so I'm now going to share my screen. And Israel, in the time of Omri, they became known as the House of Omri or Bet Omri. Bet Omri. So before the war, Assyria, before 723, when they went into captivity, Assyria called them the House of Omri. But they could not say Bet Omri. They had this guttural sound and they said Bet Kumri. Kumri. Bet Kumri instead of Bet Omri. It's the same thing, same people. So that was written in the Nineveh stones by Tiglath-Pileser in 722, 24, 25, somewhere at that time period.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
I think I sent to everybody in the call a couple of stones and the translations of those stones. So it might have been in those stones in the emails that I sent on Shabbat.
awesome. Then Sargon comes along. So that's 723, 20 years later in 704. And he's calling the Bet Kumri the Kumeri. The Kumeri. Then King Esarhaddon in 679. So this is now, what's that, 75 years approximately after the captivity. In the Nineveh stones, the Bet Omri or the Bet Kumri or the Kumeri are now being called the Kumeri. Now, I might not be pronouncing it right because I'm English, but that GH is the guttural sound. And then can you say it again? Kumeri.
Yeah.
Okay, Kumeri. So it's with an IMIRRI. And then that changes around the same time period to Gemera. And then Gemera, Gemeri. These are all recorded in the Nineveh stones. Starting in 669 or thereabouts, the Gemera, the hard G becomes a hard C. It's still pronounced Gemeri, only it's spelled with a C now. And then that becomes the Sumerians.
Yes.
And the Sumerians, everyone knows, are the ancestors of the Celtic people.
Mercenaries, yeah.
And the Celtic people, the Sumerians, are also known as the Scythians. And the Utes. The Utes were the Jews. They're also known as the Messengeti. And there's a whole bunch of tribes in there. And Cyrus and I found, well, he's telling me about the other ones that I had no idea about. The Mongols or the
Huns,
and the Huns
and the Chinese.
and it's just, he said the Chinese. I can't believe it. I never knew the Chinese, but I got more to research. But it starts with the Bet Omri, and then the victors are the ones who write history, and they wrote in the Nineveh stones Bet Kumri, which changed down to Cimmerians. And that's why the Cimmerians can be both with a C or a K, because the Celtic is both with a C and a K.
Correct.
Did I say anything out of step?
No, that's absolutely right. It is recorded in the Nineveh stone, the Shisha stone.
Susa stone.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so this is a very good straight line history right here.
Yep.
And the Cimmerians were very, very well known. The Scythians were very, very well known.
So this is one slide in my presentation. And in my book, it's over 250 pages of detailed notes. So the Celtic people, the Anglo-Saxon people, are the DNA descendants of Israel. That is such a racist comment that people say I'm not listening to you anymore. And I really don't care, because I do not care if you are pink and purple with yellow polka dots and you come from Mars. If you keep the Torah, you are an Israelite. But to fulfill prophecy, because there's a bunch of people out there called the Black Hebrews who say that they are the true Israelites and all the rest of us are liars. If they want to be the Israelites, I'm all for it, because of what's about to happen to Israel. They're about to be wiped out. So if the Black Hebrews want to volunteer to be wiped out, go for it. That means my white butt and my aunt's family will be saved. Okay, it's not like that. It's not a race issue. It's not black, white, brown, yellow. It's got nothing to do with that. But there are certain people that are about to pay a price for not obeying God. In fact, the whole world is, but Israel's going to be first. Anyone who keeps Torah is an Israelite, no matter what color or race or nationality you are. Okay, where was I? What was I doing here? 70 weeks, 2033. Okay. So I think I've demonstrated now that the 70th week, this 120th Jubilee cycle is the one where I'm looking at my thing, and I should have that share screen. Sorry, my bad. So I'm pretty sure that we have demonstrated that the 120th Jubilee cycle is now. And citedmoon.com is the only one telling you that 2020 was the middle of that cycle and that something was going to happen. We didn't know what. And we are documented on 700 Club in 2015 and 2018 on TV as saying it. All my books written before 2020 are saying it. All our recordings are saying it. So it's well out there. And I'm not bragging about me being right. It's got nothing to do with me being right. But what I'm saying is we're the only ones that were saying it, which has got to give us a little bit of credibility for what I'm about to say. 2020 changed the world. Now I'll go back. We're going to read some more of Daniel. Verse 27. Oh, can you, no, that's not shared yet. Sorry. Verse 27. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. So this is what we were talking about last night. And I think you came up with the same thing independently of me.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's the first time I've ever found anyone to do that, who agrees with me independent of me. This is real scary.
I'm not sure that Charles did not. I don't, he's gone, so we can't ask him, but he and I had talked about it after I found him. I found you first through one of the girls. They sent me your name and website. And then I don't remember how I found Charles, but I found it. And he was showing me his sabbatical and Jubilee chart. And it looked, I thought, well, that's like Joe Dumond. And so anyway, we started talking about it. And I'm not sure what he said, if he had come up with that or not. But he may have. I don't know. So there may have been 3 of them.
Okay. That's anyway, that I just learned that last night. So that was pretty cool. So what is the covenant made with many? I had a hard time figuring this out. I knew it was for 1 week. So that's 149-year period. Again, I'm doing this in 2005. I don't know what it is. I have a group of women doing research and helping me research for the 2300 Days of Hell book that we were writing at the time. Laura Skehan, who used to live down here in Amarillo, Texas, and has since been murdered, was helping me at the time. And she said, well, what about the United Nations Environmental Program? And I looked at that. And it was made in May 6th, the 16th, 1972. And it was about saving the whales and saving the oceans, because we were having the oil spills at that time, the Exxon Valdez incident. It was a big news. So this was a good thing. The United Nations Environmental Program. Is that what this covenant made with many was? So 113 nations signed on. There's 193 that could, but only 113 signed on to help stop oil pollution. Okay, but their charter has 26 things that they're going to do. But the very first charter, the very first thing in the charter was on human rights. On human rights. So thank you. I got a question for, and I asked this to Cyrus. I ask it all the time, and people laugh. What does a blue whale need with human rights? What does a three-toed frog climbing up your tree in the backyard need with human rights? What does a koala bear need? What does a salmon need for human rights? None of them need human rights. So who's human rights for? Humans. But we're not part of the things being saved. We're part of the problem. But that was the very first thing. Okay, so they have more meetings. The United Nations Environmental Plan, UNEP, then gets changed to Agenda 21. It gets changed to the Rio Accord, then the Rio Plus 20, then the Kyoto Accord, and then other names that I forget what they are. And the most recent version is the one that you've all heard, is the Paris Accord. And that's the one that Donald Trump signed out of when he came into office in 2016. But because there's a clause in the accord that says you cannot get out of this accord for 4 years after you sign it, the accord did not end until December 31st, 2020. Then President Biden came into office, and I forget whether it's January 6th or January 20th, one of those two dates. And one of the first things he does in office a week or two or three later is to sign back into the Paris Accord. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. That's 49 years. From 1972 to 2020 is 49 years. Again, what's wrong with saving the environment, protecting the trees, saving the world? We got global warming. We got climate change. According to the United Nations, this is what's going on. Except that's not what's going on. What's wrong with this? Well, in 2011, South Africa, at the meeting in South Africa, they changed or made an amendment to the human rights, and they made it a hate crime to hate anybody who was different, such as a different religion or a different faith or a different sex. And that became accepted and passed by the majority at that time, which was about 156 nations. And then each year they'd have another vote, more nations would get on until all 193 signed on to the Paris Accord. Since March, or since that meeting in 2011, instead of it becoming human rights, it's now LGBTQ rights being pushed forward until they've run out of numbers and letters of the alphabet, so that it's LGBTQ, XYZ, WC / different than all the others, something weirder yet. We don't know what they are. But the Paris Accord now enshrines the rights of all these people to be treated like everyone else, except that they are pushing to be better than everyone else. We must accept them. We can't just ignore them. We must accept them, and we must accommodate them. We must serve them. That's the accord with many, I believe, that's been out there. There's also another accord. It's the United Kingdom and British Common Market Accord, signed in January 31st, 1972, which is still part of the 72 year because it goes from Aviv to Aviv. They got out in Brexit in December 31st, 2020. Again, a 49-year period. Pick whichever one you want or both. I'm just putting them out there. He signed a covenant with many. And in the midst of the week, here's the part that you need to pay attention to. So we've got time. Do I still have a lot of time?
Go.
Go. Go all day, all night.
Moshe, go.
We were here almost till midnight. If I didn't get off the couch, we would still be talking. And in the midst of the week, what's that mean? The midst of the week. That's the middle of the week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause sacrifice and offering to cease. So, stop share. share. The week is a Jubilee cycle. When's the midst of the week? Anybody out there? When's the middle of the week?
2020.
2020. That same middle of the week that I've had marked since 2005. Okay, sacrifice and offering. With now 2022, we're looking back. If I understand this correctly, the sacrifice and offering were to cease in 2020. Except the one problem, we don't have a temple. Where's the temple? Okay, I am positive, and you will be too if you do the homework. You will not be able to prove the Sabbath and Jubilee cycles that we have listed here is wrong. Even Rambam, one of the greatest sages in Judaism, proved and said that the count that I'm doing now is the correct count, because he said this year is a sabbatical year. By tradition, we keep it a year and a half back. That Nehemiah Gordon sprung that on me in a live radio interview, and I think, and I don't know if he was doing it on purpose to try and throw me off, but when he did it and I checked the dates and he checked the dates, we both got the same year, and it confirmed every one of my sabbatical and Jubilee years was correct, and he started to stutter on the air. Go and listen to the radio interview. Awesome interview. I still love Nehemiah. Okay, so where's the temple? Where's the sacrifice and offering? The sacrifice and offering is the bullocks of your lips. Hosea 14:2. Well, let me go and read it. Let's just read it, get out of this. I don't want to show anything to you guys and not have you be able to prove it or duplicate it. Hosea 14:2. Take with you the word. So this is the Haftorah portion on Shabbat Shuvah. During the 10 days of awe, this is the portion you read at the Shabbat during those 10 days of awe. Take with you the words, turn. So let's read verse 1. O Israel, return, Shuvah, return, Shuvah, Teshuvah. 10 days of awe, Teshuvah, return. That means not just come back, it means obey, repent, start to obey. Shuvah to Jehovah, your God, for you have fallen by your iniquity, your sins, your lawlessness, you're not obeying me. So now return, start to obey me. Take with you the words, bring the Torah scrolls, and turn, Shuvah, to Jehovah. Say to him, take away all my sins, take away my iniquity, and receive us graciously, that we may repay you, repay with. We have nothing to give you. We have no bulls, we have no sheep, we have no turtle doves, we have no goats. That we may repay with the bullocks, the calves of our lips, our praise. He did not create Israel to make sacrifices. He created Israel to praise him. Only after the golden calf incident did they have to start sacrificing. Correct?
Correct. That is correct.
The bullocks of the lips is what Jehovah wants. Your praise and your respect, your prayers to him, not to the other gods, not to another God that's going to give it on to him, but to him. So these are the dailies that have been taken away. Daniel 9, again, the daily. Whoops, where'd Daniel 9 go? Right there. Oh, that's Hosea. What am I doing? Daniel 9. The midst of the week, and shall cause a sacrifice and offering to cease. So the sacrifice and offering, looking back, has got to be the daily, because we know the middle of the week is, oh, I'm not on your screen. I'm sorry. I'm just going off here. Is 2020. We know 2020 is for sure. Can you pull eSword off of there? You got eSword?
Give me a minute. It'll come off.
Oh, okay. So 2020 is the middle of the Jubilee cycle. It's the midst of the week. And we had COVID hit in 2020. So what is the bullocks of our lips that ceased in 2020? Every church, every synagogue, every assembly, every mosque, every temple, every atheist hideout was locked down in 2020, not just in one state, not in just a corner of the world, but in every country around the world. This was a major event done by Jehovah. And so what do the people do that are guarding his Torah, that are watching for him to return? What do they start to do? Bicker and fight about getting the jab or wearing the mask or some other thing about the government trying to wipe us out. And they miss this major event that Jehovah did. We are called to be shamar, to guard, to watch, to protect the Torah. But because we're over here doing something over there, we missed it. I missed it. It's taken me 1.5 years to see it. And now that I see it, I cannot not see it. So I'm going out telling you, 2020 is about Jehovah sending a virus around the world to shut everything down. And we need to stop with all this conspiracy stuff and start focusing on him, because he's about to come and judge the world. So then let's go. Let me get out of here. And let's go back here to, I got to share again. I want to go into the next thing here, because Daniel also tells us a couple other things. Let's go to help me out now. Matthew 24, where Yeshua says about the abomination. What's that?
No.
Anybody know what verse it is? Matthew
15.
24:15. I cannot remember chapter and verse. I could not do it to save my life, but I can remember where it says somewhere there. Matthew 24:15. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. What is the abomination that Daniel's talking about? So we just read, I'll go back, Daniel 9:27. Cause sacrifice and offering to cease, and on the corner of an altar, desolating abominations. So Daniel 9:27 is talking about desolating abomination on the corner of the altar, even until the end. So this is going to go on until the end. And that which is decreed shall be poured on the desolator. Okay, what is he talking about here? Matthew 24 is talking about this. Yeshua is talking about this. We're supposed to know and understand this. What's going on? Well, let's just jump over to Daniel 12. We can read all of Daniel 12. You can do that on your own. I'm going to jump to, what verse? I'm jumping to verse 11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice that we just read about in Daniel 9:27, in the midst of the week, from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the desolating abomination set up, 1,290 days shall occur. Now I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Stop sharing. Share. PowerPoint. Share. And we're going to go down. We're going to go down to, and if some of you have heard me present this already, I never present it twice to the same different groups. I always want to mix it up just so I don't fall asleep when I'm teaching it. There we go. Okay. So this March 11, 2020, March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization made an announcement that the world is in a pandemic and began to shut down. That just so happened to be that year that me and those following what I'm teaching were keeping Passover, March 11th. It was 1 month ahead of everybody else. I believe it was 1 month ahead of Cyrus, and yet Cyrus is still a friend. We kept it a month ahead because we believed the barley was ready earlier than what everyone else was saying. We did the same thing again this year, and Randy and I went to witness it ourselves. March 11, if that's correct, the last day of unleavened bread, when they actually started to lock down, would have been March 18th. So you can count from either date. I don't know which one's exactly correct, but you can count from either one. So I count from March 11th, which means that there are 20 days left in the month. That's why March has got 20 here. April's got 30 days, May's got 31. And I just start counting the days. And so in 2020, there are 295 days. 2021 has got 365 days. And here's the date up here. 2022 has got 365 days. 2023, you count them until you add up to the 290. That means that we come to September 22nd. And when we add them all up, that's a 1,290 days. So that's September 22nd, 2023. That's next year. That happens to be this Friday during the 10 days of awe. And what does Yeshua say? Pray that your flight not be on the Sabbath, nor on a holy day or a Sabbaton, or in winter. The 7th month is the first month of winter. The holy day is a Sabbath, but there's also the Sunday would be normally the Day of Atonement for the Jews, but because they can't have them back to back, it's postponed one day to Monday, Sunday night Monday. And then our day, if we're on the crescent moon calendar, will be on the Tuesday, Monday night Tuesday. So let me just go there. I do have a slide about that. I'll just show you. There it is here. September 22nd is day 6 of the 7th month, right here. There's the Sabbath, Sunday, and on the Jews, Hillel calendar will be Sunday night, Monday. This is a crescent moon. This is Torah calendar who go by the equinox. But next year, we're all going to be pretty much on the same calendar, I believe. This is the Day of Atonement. Pray that your flight be not on the Shabbat. So we got a Sabbath day there. We got the preparation for the Jewish high holy day, and then we got our high holy day. There's 3 days here that I will not be able to fly out of Israel. And I'm going to Israel next year. Randy says he's going to come with me because I need somebody to sacrifice to the mob while I flee. I'm going to trip him and run. We only have this Friday to get out of town. So we can't travel on the Sabbath. So we can't go Friday afternoon because we'll be flying, it takes 3 hours to go through an airport. That puts us in the Friday night. That means Shabbat. Can't do that. The next day, Sunday, Israel almost shuts down around lunchtime, getting ready for the Day of Atonement that evening. The only flight I'll be able to catch will be Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Otherwise, I got to wait till Tuesday to get out of town. Pray that your flight not be on the Sabbath or holy day, for then will be great tribulation. Do not go in and get your stuff. Do not go and pack your stuff. Get out now. If you don't got time to get your stuff out of your bedroom or out of your house, if you're on the roof, you're supposed to flee. Don't even go get your coat. Just go. It's going to happen that fast. Okay, I got 3 days here, almost 4 days here. I got to figure out what to do because they're all holy days. I don't know what to do. But nobody else is looking for this. So Randy and I have said we will go and look for it. What is it? Is it going to be a statue being erected? We don't know. because the abomination in, who's the guy in the Maccabee days?
Antiochus the fourth,
And-
Epiphany.
Antiochus the fourth. He set up a statue of Zeus. That was one abomination. He then sacrificed the pig on the altar. That was another abomination. So there's two different things that could be here. And as I read this, I see two different events taking place here. Could this be the statue set up? So the place, I got to show you this where it is in a moment. The place where it could be set up has no statues there now. No pagan images at all. So this could be a statue being set up next year. But also next year, they're going to sacrifice the red heifer. If the heifers are still red, could that be the abomination? Now you can go and read Isaiah 66, starting verse 1, 2, and 3, where the sacrifices made, Jehovah calls them abomination because they were done wrong.
Right.
Is that what this is? The red heifer going to be an abomination? So that also now means you can only do the red heifer at the red heifer site. And if you don't know where the red heifer site is, that becomes an abomination. So there's a lot of variables here going on. So you need to start studying and stop studying on Facebook, but start studying in the Torah and start to learn what's coming. Because your life and your family's lives are going to depend on you being able to obey Jehovah when the internet's gone and all you got your Bible and you don't got any, Facebook to tell you what to do. So let me go down here. Oh yeah, there's something else here. The word Sabbaton, it also means a sabbatical year. Guess what next year is? It's a sabbatical year. So you're supposed to do in a sabbatical year, you don't plant, you don't harvest, you stock up on food in the 6th year right now. You forgive debts. Again, that's the one I don't like. And you read the Torah out loud so everyone can hear the Torah, and you do that on the first day of Sukkot in the sabbatical year. Those are the things you got to do. If you got questions about it, those are the things I'm going to tell you. You got to figure out how to do it. You've only got an apartment, you don't got land, but you all eat. So you got to stock up. How are you going to flee in a sabbatical year with all your food that you stocked up? Okay, we don't have an answer for that. Where do you flee to? Okay, what's going to happen? You need to be in touch with Jehovah, not Joe Dumond, not Cyrus Harding, not the Pope, Jehovah. And you need to be praying and obeying. The only way you're going to survive what's coming is by praying and obeying. That's your 2 commandments, pray and obey. Stop all the other infighting, stop accusing the brethren of this, that, and the other thing, and stop fighting. Start loving one another because you need each other. You need that baby toe, you need that baby finger, you need that ear, you need that anus. I tell a joke. The body parts are all arguing to be who is going to be boss. And the ear said, I am because I hear everything. The eye said, because I see everything. The mouth said, because I tell everybody everything. The brain says, I'm the smartest. And then the anus spoke up and said, peep. That was a little toot. And everyone started to laugh. Who said that? And the anus said, me. I should be the boss. And everyone started roaring, laughing. The anus is going to be the boss. You got to be kidding me. The brain was just hysterical, and the mouth was big cracked smile on his face. And the eyes were all crinkled up. There were tears coming out. The anus is going to be the boss. Yeah. The anus was so embarrassed it shut up, stopped doing its job. Wasn't long before the eyes went cross, the mouth couldn't speak, the brain went foggy, and the body started to faint. And finally, after a few days of that, they all said, okay, we give up. The anus, you can be the boss. It's just a little joke. But all the body parts are important. And please stop fighting with each other. Start helping each other. Try and accommodate your differences and understand there are differences. I'm going to every different group, Churches of God, Sacred Name, Hebrew Roots, Hillel calendar, crescent moon calendar, barley, equinox, no equinox. I'm going to them all to try and warn them, this is what's coming. So where am I going now? Oh, the altar. Let's go to the altar. On the corner of an altar, desolating abominations. So here is the Joshua's altar. You can see that it has 4 corners, and the sort of like an H has been excavated. That's where the pit was in the middle. It was a round pit, and the grate was put on top of that. This is the grate. This is what it looks like. It was a bronze grate to set on top, so the meat didn't fall down until it was completely burnt up. Where is that altar? This is the altar. This is a picture I took in 2005 when I discovered this. This is the altar. Where is the red heifer altar site? It's done outside Jerusalem. Outside Jerusalem. Where is outside Jerusalem? Now, okay, here's where we get into controversy again. I believe it's in the city of David. Some people believe the Temple Mount is the place. Okay, whichever it is, you go with whatever you want. I'm going to say city of David. Outside the city of David, 2,000 cubits, because the red heifer and the all sin offerings were done outside the city of David. That brought you over to Golgotha, which is what we're looking at here. So this is Golgotha. Yeshua was killed on the north end of Golgotha. This also happens to be the place where Ron Wyatt says the Ark of the Covenant is. Now, he tells you he's at the bus depot, but up until that point, all the clues he gives you lead you here. Ernest Martin gives you all a bunch of clues too that lead you here, and then he tells you it's over on the Mount of Olives. So if you follow the clues, it leads you here. When you read Josephus, it leads you here. So Yeshua is killed here, and this is where the red heifer site is. This is where the main road was. This is the Garden of Gethsemane where he was praying. I pray here, I stay here, I sleep here. This is such a quiet piece in a busy city. On the left-hand side is the Kidron Valley, and right below you here in the bottom, this is the Azazel Valley, where the goat that was thrown in the Azazel Valley was thrown, but not off of here, but over on another mountain. Right here is where Solomon built his altars to Molech and Ishtar. This is where they used to make the pure anointing oil. And that was the oil that they anointed the king and the priest with. That was the oil they anointed the utensils in the tabernacle with. If a fly landed on it, it became polluted, and that oil, no matter how much was in it, had to all be thrown out. That's very expensive. Your Bible, what's the word? It dumbs down what this fly is so that you miss how revolting it is. The amaka is what the pure anointing oil is. And when the fly landed on it is a shit fly. The amaka becomes amashit. That's the Hebrew word where we get our word shit from. Amashit. And everywhere that they found an idol or false worship, they built a latrine so that all the people would go into the latrine and dump their amashit on where the idol was. That is how revolting and disgusting false worship or idol worship is. And that's why Isaiah and Elijah, when they talk about this, are using that word. It's like when you get caca on your hand, changing the baby's diaper, you're shaking your hand, or if you step on a cow patty, you're shaking your foot. It's so disgusting. It's the same thing. This is idol worship. It's that revolting. I tell another little story. You haven't seen it yet. It's one of my videos that's coming out with our next book. I baked these brownies with the finest of ingredients. Grandma's secret recipe, done such a special way. They're the most mouth-watering brownies in the world. They taste delicious. But just before I put them in the oven, I just put a little bit of pure red heifer shit on them. Just a pinch. And I offered it to you when it comes out. would you eat one? No, you wouldn't touch it. It's that revolting, that disgusting. And many of you are probably saying, I can't believe he's even using that word. That's so disgusting. Yes, it is that disgusting. When you mix your Torah with false teachings, when you combine it with Talmudic interpretations that aren't found in Torah, when you combine it with other books that aren't found in Torah, when you do that, you are worshiping other gods, or you are mixing the Torah, you are adding Amashit to the Amakah, the pure Torah of Jehovah. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. So this is Mount Golgotha, and it got its name changed to the Mount of Offense, because that's where Solomon put his abominations on this mountain. Then that's where Yeshua was killed, on the Mount of Offense. Now we have this other saying in Daniel 9:27, on the wings of the abomination. That's a coded message for the corners of the talit. The wings are the corners. The tzitzits are the corners of your talit. So we got the 10 days of awe. They start in 2024. And they go to 2033. That happens 6 months after this abomination is supposed to be set up. There's another verse we want to go to. I'll just scroll down here in my slides. Daniel 8, verse 11. Yea, he magnifies himself even to the ruler of the host, and the daily, the sacrifice has been added there. It's not in there. The daily was taken away by him, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Okay, Solomon, the sanctuaries of Moloch and Ishtar were, through the great earthquake of 863, were tumbled into the Azazel Valley. Before that, Josiah destroyed them, made a latrine. Then there's the earthquake, and they were tumbled down, cast down. And an army was given to him against the daily. Okay, what's that mean? Against the daily, because of transgression, and it cast the truth to the ground. And it worked, and it succeeded. What has been happening now on the internet? The truth has been cast to the ground. Nobody believes anything anybody says. The truth is so polluted with all these other things. Nobody knows what's the truth anymore. I think we're there. Verse 13. Then I heard a certain holy one speaking. Again, the same thing happened in Daniel 12. One of two holy ones said, how long? This should tell you something. The two witnesses, one knows a chronology and the other one does not. One knows and one does not. And I heard a certain holy one speaking, and another holy one said to that one who spoke, until when shall the vision last concerning the daily? Okay, the daily, the bullocks of our lips, and the transgressions that astounds, to give both the sanctuary. So that word sanctuary is an interpretation. The word can also mean saints. And I believe it means saints. So I'm interpreting the same word, which with another legal translation, saints, till both the saints and the hosts. Okay, so now here's two different groups of people. The saints are those that keep the Torah, and the hosts are those who are the DNA descendants, to be trampled. How long for both of them to be trampled underfoot? And he said to me, for 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary, the saints, shall be vindicated. Okay. What is this? So this word vindicated, I immediately go to Revelation 6:10. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, until when, Master, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? The word avenge in Greek is the word ekdikio, and it means to vindicate. Who's doing the vindicating? We just read it right here. One of these two witnesses. They will be vindicated at the end of the 2,300 days. from the time that the daily is taken away. So that brings you back to March 11th, 2020. So now we start counting. Whoops, there it is. March 11th, 2020. We just start counting. 365, 365, 365, 366, because there's a leap year in February that year of 2024. 2025, 365. 2026 brings you to June 28th. Now that throws me off because I thought it would be in the fall, but June 28th could be Shavuot, a very late Shavuot that year. And I don't know. I'm watching. I'm just reporting. I'm not trying to fudge the dates to fit my theory. I'm showing you what I'm discovering and that we need to start watching. And we need to also start warning our fellow brethren and all the other groups, whether they agree with you or not on all points, start to warn them, start to watch. I can't get through the leaders. I'm going to the leaders, but they won't repeat it. Cyrus might. He's big enough. He's not afraid of me. But the brethren got to start repeating this. You know, start sharing it. 2,300 days. So that's how long it takes to June 28, 2026. So you could add 7 days on there, you know, depending, I don't know. So here's the other thing. If you think I'm wrong, if you think what I'm saying is wrong about the 1,290 and the 2,300 days starting from 2020, awesome. Knock yourself out, put your own theory up, and you've got to make it work between 2022, which is right now, and it's almost December, say 2023, you've got 21 years to make it work between now and the 7th millennium. Whatever theory you got to stick it in here and make it work. That's a 3.5 year tribulation, 3.5 years for the two witnesses, 2,300 days of turmoil. Put it in there, make it work. They all got to be completed by 2044. But remember, unless those days were cut short, no flesh will be saved alive. If Satan is locked away in 2033, as I'm putting forward here, those days are cut short by 12 years. What does that mean? I don't know. I only just discovered 2024 here in the last year. I've been talking about it since 2005, but I wasn't sure what it meant. 2024 represents the day when Jehovah is going to come back, the Feast of Trumpets. Well, he's not going to come in 2024 and be on earth for 10 years and let Satan still rule and only defeat him in the last year. No, he's going to teach the world something over the next 10 years during the 10 days of awe. Every year that we've gone to the feast, just before the feast has been bedlam, turmoil, going to lose my job, going to lose my career, going to lose my wife, we're going to get divorced. Every year it was some major disaster. That's what the 10 days of awe represent just before we enter the feast time of the 7th millennium. 2024, because the Day of Atonement, I mean, not the Day of Atonement, the Day of Trumpets also represents the 10 days of judgment, the 10 days of awe. Jehovah said, I will put the curses of Egypt on you in the last days. Those are 10 plagues. The next book that I'm writing right now is talking about the 10 days of awe. I hope to have it out here, sometime this spring. But I can't wait till I publish the book before I tell you, because we're almost, by the time editing gets done, it could be the abominations here. So I haven't even got the abomination book done. I'm telling you what's in it. You don't have to get the book. You can just listen to this. But get the book. It's got more details. We're out of time. We're out of time for playing games. We're out of time for playing religion. You're either real with Jehovah or you're not. Don't try and impress me. Don't try and impress your brethren in the group that you're with. You better be praying and obeying to the best of your ability. And you got to start now. Hey, I just started keeping the Sabbath last week. This is my first time. Now you're scaring the bejesus out of me. Good. you start obeying and praying starting now. And you pray and obey to the best of your ability. The thief on the tree, he was probably Jewish, kept the holy day, sort of, kind of, but he was still a thief. But he repented that day. What? Just an hour before he was killed. So repent, start to obey. Jehovah knows what you're doing. If Jehovah knows your heart, but your heart is deceiving you because you don't obey, then you're a liar. You're not going to be saved. You're going to go through and die, and you're going to watch your family die. And you're going to take part in that cannibalism that's coming in the 5th sabbatical cycle, which is from 2024 to 2030. We have right now around the world, the Po River in Italy, the Loire River in France, the Danube River in Europe, the Rhine River in Germany, they're all drying up. Here in North America, we got the Mississippi, the Rio Grande, we got the Colorado, we got the Platte River, they're all drying up. I was just at the Hoover Dam. It dropped 70 feet this year alone. When the Hoover Dam doesn't have enough water, they don't have electricity, and that's pretty much all the West Coast. There go all your electric cars. We also got the Tigris River drying up, the Euphrates River drying up, we got Lake Ermaya drying up, and we got the Nile River drying up. In China, we got the Yangtze River drying up, and 400 million people can't work. There's other lakes in China, I can't pronounce their names, they're also drying up. So in China, you got the religions of Buddhism, Confucianism. They can't stop the rivers from drying up. The Middle East, you got Islam. They can't stop the rivers from drying up. Europe, they're all Catholics. They can't stop the rivers from drying up. In the United States, they're Protestant evangelicals. They can't stop the rivers from drying up. And yet COP27 has got all these religions coming together to help fight climate change. What a joke. None of them can stop with their God. Why would their God, if they're obeying, why would their God dry up all their water? And the waters are drying up in such a state that their crops are failing, which means next year we start to get into more famine. David Beasley said that there was 80 million people on famine roll 5 years ago in 2017. Now there's 345. That's 4 times as many. Yes, we've got, COVID hit in 2020. We got climate change events causing trouble. Then we got the war with Russia and Ukraine holding up the Ukraine wheat. Jehovah said he's going to send these curses on you. He didn't tell you exactly how they were going to come. He just said they're going to come. The next curse is cannibalism, because you're going to be so hungry. Oh, yes, the United Nations, they are promoting indigenous religions. That's the one religion they promote, those who hug the trees and those who kiss Mother Earth. Mother Earth and Mother Nature, that's the God I'm about to expose that all these other religions are worshiping, called the Blessed Virgin Mary, called Pavari in India, Vishnu, the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. These are all pagan gods, and they come from Noah's wife. Ham, Noah's son, had sex with his mother and produced a son. When you uncover the nakedness of Noah, you're uncovering his wife and you're having sex with his wife. Leviticus, I believe it's 19, go and read it. When you uncover the nakedness of somebody else, you're having sex with them. Ham uncovered the nakedness of Noah, had sex with his mother, Noah's wife. Canaan was born. That began this father, who is Ham, and the son, who is also Ham, and the Holy Ghost, who is Noah's wife, Ham's mother. Ham is then taken or usurped by his son, Cush, who I believe is also the son of Noah's wife, by Ham. And then Cush is now having sex with both his grandmother and mother, who is now his wife. And they have an offspring called Nimrod. And then Nimrod usurps Cush and has sex with his great-grandmother, and mother and wife. And that's where her name becomes Semiramis. If you think that's confusing, I'm going through the mythology of the Romans, the Greeks, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and the Assyrians, and they all got different names, as well as the Indians and the Buddhists. They've all got a Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And the Holy Ghost becomes the most important one because that's the Queen of Heaven, the Mother of God. And that's the Blessed Virgin Mary today. And these are the gods that are about to be destroyed. And these are the gods that the United Nations have brought together in COP27, including, I mentioned that the Amazon's drying up, the indigenous river. Yeah. All these religions cannot stop the drought that's drying up their rivers. And Jehovah is about to destroy each of these gods and what they represent.
Just like he did in Exodus.
Just like he did in Exodus, right? So I'm going to explain that in my third book. It's a little bit complicated. I need to have some quiet time. I don't get quiet time because now I got to do this stuff, but I need to figure it out and think. I wrote it rough before last year. Now I'm trying to rewrite it again. I would have had it done if I'd done it in one book, but they wanted me to put it in 3 books. So there's too much information. So I agreed. Brethren, that's where we are. Jehovah is ticked off at the world, and these curses are happening around the world. It's not climate change. It's not global warming. It's one ticked off father. And if you ever seen your dad when he went wild, and I've seen my dad go on a hissy fit, and you ran for the barn or you ran to get away because you knew that if he got you, if you're part of the problem, you were going to get a whipping like you'd never forget. Our Father Jehovah is ticked off. We will not obey. We have not obeyed. He's punishing the world. You see it as climate change. You see it as global warming. It's not global warming. It's not climate change. It's not an invention. It's not carbon caused by cows farting in New Zealand. It's not the pollution from the cars. Yeah, that's a problem. That's not the problem. They've been cleaning up the ozone since the early 1970s. Guess what? All that billions of dollars put into the ozone, they don't talk about it anymore because the ozone's the same size today. Yeah. It's a way to bring people into the United Nations Environmental Program Paris Accord Agreement to control the world. These unelected officials are now telling the countries what to do. The countries were elected by people. We're at that time. And I'm leaving this chart up here for you to watch and look and think about. You can get it for free at sightedmoon.com. You can order it from Amazon if you want. Start telling people about this. Because we're there. We're at the end.
If you would, go to my website, cudgerville.com. Search, just go into the search box and enter Covenant Made with Me. It'll bring up, and you can see the actual quotes that people have said about this agreement. It's a new 10 Commandments, and also go and look, and it will show you the Ark of the Covenant. And this Ark travels around the world. So people can bow down before this thing as the Ark to save the world, to save the earth. It's real. I've tried to get people to try to embrace it and realize here it is. It's not any more real than this. And we talked about it, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about what Jehovah says that his people going out and committing adultery, idolatry, was like having sexual intercourse with horses and donkeys and things of that nature. And his supposed to be bride, who was supposed to be pure, was a harlot and didn't even charge a harlot fee. She was that consumed with idolatry. So it's a serious problem. It's coming to a head. I don't know anything else that I can say other than what Brother Joe has already said, but this is not a random imagination or fancy by Brother Joe. It's real. And
Let me just share with you, I think this is the one I want. One more thing. So thank you, Cyrus, for everything that your endorsement and everything that you're saying. I want to show you one more thing. There's the 10 virgins in Matthew 25. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened to 10 virgins. Everyone goes off about the 10 virgins. Everyone knows everything about the 5 wise and 5 foolish. But nobody talks about this one part. Who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise and 5 of them were foolish. The foolish ones took their lamps, but took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. Okay, awesome. Everyone, that's been beaten to death. I'm not going to do that. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and fell asleep. Churches of God, Hebrew roots, Jewish Messianic. What other names are there? I don't know. Seventh-day Adventist, Seventh-day Baptist. They all fell asleep, which means nobody's looking, nobody's guarding, nobody's shamaring. And at midnight, there was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom comes. When does the bridegroom come? The Feast of Trumpets, the day of shouting. It's not the Feast of Trumpets, it's called Yom Teruah, the Feast of Shouting, or the day of shouting. Behold, the bridegroom comes. Go out to meet him. Stop right there. Who's doing that? Where's the person doing that? If all these Seventh-day Sabbath keeping groups are asleep, who's the one doing that? I didn't set out to do that. I'm hoping Cyrus will do that. But somebody's got to go out there and yell, he's coming. Again, the chart shows you 2024 when this starts. We're in 2022. Which of the 5 foolish virgins or 5 wise virgins are you? The world news is telling you he is coming in judgment in 2024. So now again, here's the Yangtze. There's the Poyang Lake in China. There's the Loire River in France, the Danube River in Europe, Rhine River, Euphrates River, Iraqi River, or Tigris River. There's Lake Ermaya this year.
Yeah.
There's the Nile River this year. These are all pictures from this year. These are all rivers from just 1 year of drought. There's the Colorado River. I just took that picture last week. Right? There's a Mississippi. I went over the Mississippi in the dark, so I couldn't take a picture, but I hope to catch it this time. There's the Rio Grande. There's the Amazon. Okay. So when this drought comes, our crops are going to fail. They're already failing. They're already failing. What's going to happen to the economies of the world when they can't get the barges to go up and down the rivers, such as the Danube and the Mississippi? What are the governments going to do? How are they going to, subsidize the people like they did during COVID? They can't. How great an impact will it be when the Hoover Dam stops working or other hydroelectric dams stop working and there's no AC? Revelation 9 says it's going to get hotter and men are going to curse God, but they're not going to repent. It's going to get hotter. The United Nations trying to stop it or keep it from going above 1.5 degrees Celsius. It's already into the 2 degrees Celsius. And according to what I understand in Revelation, it's going to be 3 and 4 degrees increase, which will be unbearable. How will a common person that lives paycheck to mouth survive? How's the government going to help all this stuff? So you got 3 years to get ready. You got 3 years to plan, 3 years to have your bug out bag ready. No, you might only have 10 months. The 3 years food supply that you put up, you better be ready for 8 years if you're able to stick it out in one spot for 8 years. That's how long this is going to last. And I've been saying it since 2005. I warned you about 2020. I'm now warning you about 2023 and 2024 up till 2030. If you survive till 2030, then it comes to Revelation. And Revelation says that the woman, Revelation 12, that the woman is going to flee into the wilderness, and the beast is going to send a flood after her, and the earth is going to open up and swallow that beast. There are sinkholes right now at the Dead Sea. They've only developed the last 5-10 years. So this army is going to step in a sinkhole, and they're all going to fall into it, and the woman's going to get away because she's got to flee to Moab, not a man. Make sure when you cross the fords of Arnon, you turn right into Moab. Our man is going to be decimated by this army coming from the east. But it says in Revelation 12, I think 16, that the beast then goes and makes war with the remnant of the woman who keep the commandments. And I ask, who are these that keep the commandments that did not flee with the woman? And I'm saying that these are those who kept the calendar at the wrong time. So Cyrus and I are keeping 2 different calendars, 30 days apart. We both go by the barley and the Aviv and the crescent moon. Mark also keeps a different calendar. There's also the Hillel calendar. Which calendar is right? You need to start doing your own homework. Of course, I'm going to say I'm right because I'm always right. Cyrus is going to say the same thing. But there's going to be a group of people here that shows up late. Which one are you going to be in? So you got, you can sit back and say, well, let's see if the abomination shows up next year. Awesome. Do that. Then you got 2 years to get ready. Oh, no, you're supposed to flee when you see the abomination. Where do you flee? Have you prepared for that? Are you ready? You're also in the sabbatical year. Do you have food stocked up? So you've just got 3 years. You have just 3 years. No, that's wrong. You got 3 years until the 2 witnesses come. You got 10 months to the abomination. You got 1 year and 10 months till 2024 when these curses begin. The brethren being attacked and killed. You got 3 years until the 2 witnesses show up and put a stop to it. And they say there's no rain for 3.5 years. So you see the world after just 1 year of drought, they're going to say for 3.5 years. Imagine that.
Yep.
So you've got very little time to get ready. And you got no time left for start unifying with each other. So my God, Jehovah, Cyrus's God, can bring water out of a rock. That rock is over 80 feet tall, 20 feet thick. It's split from the top to the bottom. At the bottom is still solid rock, and that's where the water gushed out when Moa hit it with his rod. He was supposed to speak to it. If you look up there are little people at the bottom of it. They just look like ants. My God can also bring down manna from heaven. So in order to survive this, you must obey. And you better start praying. Pray and obey. That's the secret formula right there. And I'm done. Yeah, there's my sighted moon. That's the restoration book that I'm offering. You put your name on that. sightedmoon.org/restoration. I'm going to get your email. You're going to start getting a newsletter from me every week. If you don't like it, unsubscribe. Thank you. You still get the book. So that's where we're at. It's not about selling books. It's not about promoting my ministry. It's not about me becoming famous. It's about warning the nation. And the fact that 2, actually 3, because I forgot the name. Levitt Ministries called me back yesterday.
Zola Levitt?
Lola, what?
When it's Zola Levitt?
Zola Levitt
Yeah. I think I have his book.
and GLC and TBN. 3 of them called me back yesterday. So I believe Jehovah's opening that door. So I'm praying, if you know other ministries, call them, contact them, explain this to them, tell them to contact me or contact Shane and Anita. They're helping to organize this. And pass this on to them. Let them hear this message. They're not going to agree on all points. They may not even like me. In fact, besides Vaughn, I don't think there is anyone else here that does like me. But you need to share the message. If you're going to die being found guilty of doing the work. Don't be found hiding, cowering in the corner. Be found guilty of having done the work. Spread the message, tell others, let them know what's coming. It's time to make your voices heard. It's time for your light to shine. And that time is now. So I don't know what else. If you got questions, now is the time to ask.
Let me take a contrary, and everybody knows I do that. Let's take a contrary and look at that. Let's say Brother Joe's wrong. He won't say it, but let me say it. Let's say Brother Joe's wrong. Okay.
I do say that.
We still have a sabbatical year coming, so we've got to prepare for that. Now, here's the big thing. We know that we're already in a deficit as far as rainwater and irrigation water in this country. Forget China, India, Egypt, forget them. All right. The price of diesel has tripled. The price of fertilizer, I was buying for 100 pounds, I was paying about $24 per 100 pounds of nitrogen fertilizer. Then I thought, well, I better stock up while it's cheap. So I went to get some more. And it had gone from $24 per 100 pounds to $36 per 100 pounds. And really, I bought as much as I could at that point. So I got to the next payday and I thought, well, let me buy some more. And so it went from $24 a 100 pounds to over $50 a 100 pounds. So we have a deficit of fertilizer. We have a deficit of groundwater. And we have a deficit, and it's a very tenuous deal if we don't lose production of diesel. If everything keeps humming along smoothly, we're okay. But if one of these aging U.S. refineries breaks down, then we dig into our 24-day reserve supply of diesel. And that's all we have is 24 days of reserve supply. So if we lose just one diesel production facility on the Gulf Coast or anywhere, that 24 days is not going to be gone in 24 days because there's always somebody producing diesel, but it would be gone in about 2 months. Now, what happens if we lose 2 refineries? All of a sudden now your 2 months is down to 1 month. And how high does the price of diesel have to get up to? Especially anybody in the Northeast or northern states or Canada, you guys may heat with heating oil, which is diesel. You may want to fly to Israel for a sabbatical year. If they can't get jet fuel, which is diesel or kerosene, then you can't fly to Israel. If you are a trucker and you work up in the northern tier of states in Canada, then you have got to have, you let somebody in, okay, you have kerosene in order to add to the diesel to make number one diesel, so it won't gel up and get solid in cold weather. Number two diesel is fine year round in the south, but up in the northern tier of states in Canada, you've got to switch over to number one diesel or add additives to your diesel to keep from freezing up, gelling up. There's so many things that could go wrong at this point in time. We are just, you see the people build houses of cards. One wrong step can bring the whole thing down. That's where we are. Is the situation and international relations any better? No, it's much worse. We can't get along with anybody. We have already committed an act of war, United States and England, against Russia by blowing up their petroleum infrastructure. Okay, technically, if somebody did that to us, we could go to war with them and be justified. Why didn't Putin declare war? He's waiting this situation out. The colder it gets, the more miserable people get because they can't afford natural gas, they can't afford diesel. They don't have electricity, they don't have running water. Okay, you don't have electricity, you don't have a running water, you can't flush the toilet, you can't take a bath. When you're smelling funky and you're getting hungry and you're freezing, it's about time to make a deal. Okay, he's got all the time in the world. So he's waiting till this weather gets much worse because the Russians are cold weather combat experts. Folks, that's bringing us right up into this time period that Joe was talking about. We're standing on eggshell, and no matter where we step, something's going to break. So we've got to be very careful. And as far as me and Vaughn, and of course you guys know, we talk about these topics and subjects. We're in prayer over this. We are still prepared. Brother Joe's seen some of the few little things that we put away so that we might be able to eat something over the next year or so. But we've got a long way to go. And we're not going to be able to plan. Now, knowing how Yah gives and is generous and supplies, there's going to be stuff that we can walk out there and harvest and eat. Sandra forages for food all through the sabbatical year. We do too. A lot of others do. We depend on wild food, foraging, for a lot of our food supply to save what we've already got canned. But what happens if we don't get rain when we're supposed to get rain, especially in the springtime? Oops, now we have to start using food we weren't planning on using until after spring crops, had made their appearance and we could take any food from them. Brother Joe is being, in my opinion, I'm going to say, conservative. He may say things in kind of a, I don't know if yeah, you said last night the French are flamboyant, so in a flamboyant way, but it's not hyperbole. It is not hyperbole. We are going into serious times in 2023. And I do, and all of those of you who know me well enough, 2024 could be even much worse. Okay, so please listen to what Brother Joe's telling you. If you want to start doing a lot of this research, there's books out there like Tarviz that you can go in here and you can find stones, headstones from Zawar. And you can use these to prove whether Joe's pulling your leg or not,
Let me see that.
and he's not. A lot of those from Dr. Joseph Nave,
Yeah.
yeah. And
How many-
he's not pulling your leg.
How many of these does he have in here?
I think there's only 6 in that one. I have more than one.
So yeah, Dr. Nave has, I believe, a dozen or
Or
12
A
and-
little bit more than a dozen,
I
I'm
want-
not certain. I want to say about 18 maybe.
okay. I've
They're
got
all
30.
from about the 1930s. And I sent you those 2 volumes that what the Greeks did.
But yes, and I already had them in my list.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, let's see, is there Dr. Charles Rice? His is pretty common. Everybody knows about it, though. But Dr. Stern is another one. But guys, this is real. This is provable. It's documentable. If a ditch digger and a retired farmer in Southeast Texas can come up with this stuff, why can't rabbis and sages and all these other people?
Tradition.
Because they're not interested, that they're wanting to do as they've always done, keep the traditions of men. We don't care about the traditions of men. We want the pure, true word of Elohim. Okay, we want the Miltha. Remember John chapter 1, verse 1, the first 4 words, that 4th word. We want the Miltha. Okay, we want that fulfilled word of Elohim. And so that's important to remember. Okay. This is, well, like Brother Joe said, we talked till midnight last night and enjoyed every minute of it. And I got up this morning, I had several questions on my mind. I got up somewhere around 6 o'clock and started working on some of the questions that I had. And it really does encourage you to study more. There's no way you can learn all this. No way I can learn it all. No way Brother Joe can learn it all. It's too big of a subject. And I'm saying Torah. Okay. It's too big of a subject. It's not just Abraham and Jacob and 12 tribes down in Egypt. No, it's much, much bigger. Much, much bigger. Questions? One thing I do want to point out, but I think it was, well, I'll address it in the video so she can hear it. But it was Sonia had a question about, she read something that Brother Joe wrote, and her question was, is Yeshua coming in 2024? And Brother Joe hit upon it, but just kind of briefly talking about when the bridegroom comes. Okay, there is a person, and we talked about this in Revelation, 144,000. They're the groomsmen. They assist Yeshua with his task of preparing the way. The head groomsman goes out and gives the call that the bridegroom is coming. Okay, that's who sounds the call. Okay, and you said they called it a paranymph.
Paranymph is the name.
I could not find it.
It's a difficult word to find, but as you get into it, John the Baptist was the friend of Yeshua. He was the paranymph, and then Yeshua said that John the Baptist was Elijah.
Right.
So the Elijah at the end will also be doing the announcing, the paranymph, and letting you know that he's about to come. So if I heard I didn't see her question, but if I heard her right, okay, then is Yeshua going to show up here in 2024? That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The judgments are showing up here in 2024. So we have on Shavuot, right? We have the law given.
Right.
And then when was that? 13. So almost 1400 years later, we have the Holy Spirit given. same day.
Mhm,
Both things are related to each other,
mhm.
right? But two different events.
And we see the 3,000 restored to the assembly too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we also have, there's also multiple events that take place, such as you're to flee on Passover, and we're to eat Passover with our shoes and cape on and ready to flee again. So we're gonna have to flee again on Passover. That's what I'm talking about, Passover 2030, when the two witnesses are killed. The seventh day of unleavened bread, Israel went through the Red Sea. That also represents the end of the seventh millennium. So there's multiple things for each of the holy days. Yeshua was born on the Feast of Trumpets. He's going to come again on that day. But this time is going to be his coming with his judgment, not coming to, and I don't know if he's coming in person, to be honest. I really don't know. But it doesn't make sense to me they would come and fight for 10 years, right?
Right.
But he's going to send these plagues, the 7 seals, the 7 bowls, the 7 vials of Revelation, the 10 plagues of Exodus. They all are going to come during this 2024 to 2030 period. I believe the 7 plagues or trumpet blasts are from 24 to 2030. And then there's other ones like for the tribulation, but because some of them overlap, some of them sound like they're repeating. And that's what I'm trying to put in the book. Again, by the time I get it done, who cares? It'll be all over, right?
It could be, yeah.
But yeah, so he's coming. So, I also, and I'm not sure where you are in this. It says in Isaiah 12, I'll pull it up.
Okay.
I'll pull it up and share it. And this causes a lot of people troubles because we bring our Christian religion with us. Isaiah 12, verse 2. My God, okay, so my God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid, for the Lord Jehovah is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. Okay, so we look that up.
Page 3444.
That's right. So that he has become my salvation. That is the word, right? We go down here, the Strongs. He has become my Yeshua. Jehovah has become my Yeshua. Now, just go and read John 1. John 1 said it quite plainly until we started to mess with it. John 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, the Torah, and the Word was with God, and the Word, the Torah, was God. Right? And then it says a couple verses down, and the Word became flesh.
Mhm.
It's telling you Jehovah became flesh. And so we've just read where Jehovah is Yeshua, he became Yeshua. Now we can say that, or I can say, when I understood this, I can now say the Shema Israel, Jehovah Eloheinu, Jehovah Echad, not two,
Right.
not a trinity, because the
Right.
trinity is the false ones, and even the two is the false ones.
That's correct.
Satan's going to deceive the whole world, if possible, even the elect. How? Through religion.
It still
So-
works so long in the past.
Yeah. So if you understand, and I believe I do, and there's some, and again, I can't answer all the questions. There's some there I can't answer. But it says that in the holy days tell you the plan of salvation. The Feast of Trumpets is when he comes. The Feast of Trumpets is when you're going to come in. The day and hour no man knows. Okay. Day of Atonement is when he's going to be locked up. Satan's going to be locked up. The Day of Atonement is also the day when Jehovah, who is the other goat, you cast lots for the two goats. One is for Jehovah, not Yeshua. The one is for Jehovah.
That's correct.
The one is for Azazel. The Azazel is thrown off the cliff. The Jehovah goat is the one that's offered for a sin offering.
Mhm.
Jehovah is our sin offering. Whoa. Okay, that's atonement. Then Sukkot is the wedding. When's the wedding? I believe the wedding is after the 7th millennium. after the 7 days, or the 7 millennial days, that's what Sukkot represents, and the beginning of the 8th. The 8th is attached right there, but it's a separate holy day. Shemini Atzeret is not to start reading the Torah anew. It represents the day, and there are 2 days in the Jewish holy day calendar that they have no clue what they mean. Yom Teruah, go shout. Shout what? Do what? Shout. Just go shout. Okay. And Shemini Atzeret, it says keep it holy. And do what? They don't know. But on the New Testament side, you can start to understand that. What is Shemini Atzeret? It's the 8th day. What is the 8th day? John 10:22. Yeshua kept the 8th day, the Feast of Dedication. He's not keeping Hanukkah,
No.
although the Hanukkah could be used there, but it's not the Hanukkah in the 10th month, because he kept the Hanukkah at Sukkot. Because if you read from John 7 up to John 10 and 11, he's at Sukkot. He's arguing with the priest. That whole, 4 chapters is about his argument, verbatim. And he's at Sukkot on the 8th day, the Feast of Dedication. What's the dedication about? Now you go back to 1 Kings 8, when Solomon dedicated the temple.
Right.
And on the 8th day, Jehovah comes down into the temple. He consumes the altar with lightning, fills it with a cloud, and the priest can't. That's the Feast of Dedication. That's the 8th day. What's it showing? All the other feasts point to the 8th day. That 8th day represents the time. All the other ones are preparing for the 8th day. Get sin out of your life. That's a Passover. Shavuot. Get the Holy Spirit. Unleavened bread. Get sin out of your life. Feast of Trumpets. Okay, he's coming. Get ready. Day of Atonement. Again, repent. Teshuvah. May your name be found in the book of life. The wedding, because you're getting yourself ready for the wedding. The wedding, the 8th day, it's a consummation of the wedding. When Jehovah, Revelation 20, 21, and 22, when Jehovah will come and dwell here on earth with man, he wants to dwell with us here on earth.
Correct. Same thing with Zechariah 14.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all pointing to him dwelling here on earth. So who is it? Jehovah, who is Yeshua, who is one God. We're not marrying a son, we're marrying Jehovah. He didn't send a substitute to die because he made the covenant with Israel. He was the one at the table with the 70 elders. He was the one on top of the mountain talking to Moses. He's the one that made the agreement. And we made the agreement with Jehovah. He's the one we're going to marry. He loves us that much that he gave his own life instead of us if we repent. If we don't repent, we get to pay the penalty ourselves with our own lives. But the 8th day is the consummation of Jehovah with Israel, and everyone who joins Israel, no matter what race you are, is going to be a part of Israel and a part of that wedding. And that's the plan, I think, in a nutshell. So it's only going to take, it's only going to take 7,000 years to work out, but that's what it is.
Okay, any questions? Yeah, as soon as it's prepared, I'll send it out to everybody. And if you know anybody that could not make it but wanted to be here, please send it to them. But I will send it to everybody in the Kahal. So everybody should get it. Remember, keep Brother Joe in prayer. He should be leaving kind of early in the morning tomorrow, so he can head on to Beaumont. He's got a meeting down there.
Oh, there's going to be a fight over the couch tonight.
No, it won't be. It'll be good, and he'll stay in bed. But also, if there's no questions, all I'd say is it's been wonderful having you guys here.
Is that the right time? We've been on here for 4 hours? No, 3 hours.
3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. Y'all are my witness. I didn't say that much. I didn't say very much at all. That was Brother Joe who did all of
Yeah.
We'll remind him of that one, Brother
Yeah.
Mark. But anyway,
I want to thank you. I want to thank Brother Mark too, if you're listening. I want to thank you both for, joining me on these discussions and talking the stuff that we do. The brethren love it. They love all of us, you guys. So thank you. And thank you for allowing me to come here
yes, sir.
in person to meet you. And ladies and gentlemen, this guy's big. He's big. He's a big boy. But thank you for having me and Vaughn for having me too. It's been an honor to be able to share this stuff with you. Again, the message isn't changing that much from place to place. The recording with the group the other day, it'll be coming out at some point. I don't know. This one will be out. There's the one in my newsletter from this past week with Samuel Graham.
Mhm.
I've got to take what I've been doing. Each time I do it, it's still 3 hours, but I've got to get it down into a half-hour program for TBN.
Okay.
I got to get it down into a 15-minute presentation or a 10-minute presentation for the TED Talk. I got to combine all this down, and that's almost virtually impossible for me to do.
What about, and I don't know these people like a lot of people do. Sandra is very knowledgeable about the various pastors and everything out there. I'm not. I live in my own little world here. There's a guy that, like Marty, somebody that like, that's amazing, or that's. Sandra, do you know who I'm talking about? Marty something? Anybody?
I do not.
Okay, all right. I know that, several people, and in fact, I think Nehemiah's gone there. And it's usually maybe Mark Biltz, I think, went on there talking about the
Blood moons.
blood moons, but he was wrong. But anyway,
Mark Biltz is saying that 2023 or 2024, I forget which one it is the next Jubilee year. And there's other people saying that the next Jubilee year is either this year or next year, depending on which calendar, because last year was the sabbatical year. They say it was the 49th. Some people say that this year, starting at Tishri, 4 months ago, is the start of the sabbatical year. And then next year will be the 50th year. And people, they're pulling this out of their hats.
maybe someplace else.
Yeah, well, I've already used that enough times today. So you now know, or you should now be able to prove it with 2 Kings 19:29. That one verse alone, you can prove this theory false. Just count by 7. It does not line up with what they're saying. So don't be deceived. Don't be led away.
Also, go back and please notice that the command is count 7 sevens, not 50, 7 sevens. Okay, it doesn't say count 50, it says 7 sevens. That's 49.
To the morrow after the
That-
49th day.
Right, tomorrow after the 49th day, and that is day 1 of the next week, or it's year 1 of the next cycle, but it's also year 50 of the previous cycle. So day 1, Yom Rishon, becomes two dates. Year 1 of the next cycle, but you also count 50, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 when you're counting. And so it's very logical. The instructions are very exact. You count 7 7. Doesn't say count 50.
So I need to just post on the side. There's a link there to something. Amazing facts makes history. Is that what you're looking for?
It might be. I'm not sure. It's always something kind of sensational and kind of I don't know if I should say the word offbeat, but it's something that people aren't keeping up with.
Okay,
And so I thinking, when you were talking, I'm thinking that, wait a minute, that Marty guy, might be interested in this. And I want to say he's in California, but I don't know that for sure. But it's like, that's amazing, or that's incredible, or something of that nature.
so here's what each of you can do. You're told to go out and double your reward, double from 2 to 4 and from 5 to 10. And Jehovah's going to come and say, blessed are you, come on in. And if you do nothing, he's going to take away your one reward and give it to somebody else. So here's, and I'm not judging you, but I'm here giving you an example. Anita posted this group in the chat. I've contacted the TBN, GLC, and Zola Levitt Ministries, and they've all opened up to me just yesterday for the first time. If Jehovah's opening up this door, then take it upon yourself. Take a clip of something that you liked about what I said, and send it to them and tell them how much you enjoyed it, and that they should contact me, give them my contact number, or give them Anita contact number, and they should contact me to have me on their show. I'm willing to go anywhere right now to do this. If that door is open, I'm going to charge through it. Like I said, guns a-blazing. So if you want to help, and I don't know all these groups, I don't know who to contact, and I don't have enough time to contact them all. But you can, and make that your job. And I'm going to contact these 3 groups, and I'm going to share this clip, and you can do that. And that's one way you could help. If you believe what I'm saying, you believe what Cyrus is saying about me, then you can help do that. We need help. Look at me, I'm pathetic. I can't do this by myself.
Any questions, any comments?
Mrs. Newsom. You ready to get your
Anything?
hair washed? Shampoo?
Okay.
Well, you get the hair shampoo, so you might as well get rid of it.
Says, for those of you who are kind of new, you're thinking, why is he gonna open up and read the Aaronic blessing? Because it has the part here that I like. I want his name. I want his name on me. I want to be found like one of the men in Jerusalem that are sighing and crying for the sins of Jerusalem, and receive Jehovah's name on my head. I want that. I'm jealous for that. That's what I want. So that's why I read it until we can find something better. This is an amazing promise. Okay.
Getting to be discussed.
And Jehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aharon and his son, saying, this is how you bless the children of Israel. Say to them, Jehovah bless you and guard you. Jehovah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Jehovah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I myself shall bless them. Amen.
The son is talking about taking.
May I just do that in Hebrew? Because I never do it in Hebrew.
I do it in Hebrew.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't see it.
I do not
Yeah.
quote. I read, and so I wrote it down in Hebrew so I could quote it.
Yeah.
Okay. Ve'daber Yehovah el Moshe lemor. Daber el Hacharon va'el banav lemor. Ko tabaraku et bnei Yisrael amor lachem. Yahareka Yehovah vayismereka. Ya'er Yehovah panav eleka v'honeka. Yisa Yehovah panav eleka v'yasem leka shalom. Vasamu et shami el bnei Yisrael va'ani abarechem. Amen.
Amen.
I'm telling you, one of the best ways to learn Hebrew, get Hebrew, a copy of a Hebrew scripture, and an empty notebook, and a pencil or a pen, and copy what you see in that Hebrew letter, and you're gonna get all your punctuation. You're gonna get your Sophite letters, or I call them stinky feet letters, but anyway. And it'll give you the exposure, and by the time you're on chapter 3 or 4 in Genesis, you're gonna have a good handle. My handwriting's bad anyway, Brother Joe will tell you that, but anyway, you'll have a good handle on how to write Hebrew. Not that it's good.
But my Mac is telling me I'm almost out of juice. I just want to
Okay.
thank you and
Yes, sir.
thank your viewers for tuning in and allowing me to share this message. I really do appreciate it. And may Jehovah bless you and continue to guide you and keep you and Vaughn in these days that are coming, and keep you all safe and healthy
Thank
for
you,
the
sir.
glory of his name.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know you've got a lot of things on your plate right now, but we pray that everything goes smoothly. Business wise, if you want to call it that, personal as well, because I know you've got a lot of stuff on your plate. And we pray for a smooth transformation and a smooth trip to the Philippines. You got that coming as well. Yep.
Okay, no questions.
Okay.
I get my hair washed.
Jane, Anita, thank you so much for keeping us in the loop.
Why?
As far as what Brother Joe was doing, and
Sure
So-
thing.
appreciate it. We really do.
Joe was gonna go visit you in New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
What?
I said Joe was going to go visit you in New Mexico. I said he's not there, I don't think.
No. Well, we don't want him to come during the wintertime because the bears are hibernating. There's an old story about what do you do when a bear stays new? Can you outrun a bear? No, but all we got to do is outrun Brother Joe.
That's why I'm bringing Randy.
Yeah, no, y'all willing, we'll see when he's gonna allow us to go back to New Mexico. It's off the plate right now. And I'll wait on him. We've had several invitations to go and speak overseas and stuff, and he told me that you are not leaving this country until I tell you to leave, and he's never told me to leave, so. I was very disobedient at one time, and
I think we all were.
well, it nearly cost me too much.
Do you want some more water?
Y'all blessed us, and we really did, for learning to be obedient.
Think you got it?
Okay, if there's not any more questions or comments or whatever.
Thank you, Nico, for your comment.
Oh, Nico is there.
Yeah, she's here. Vaughn said hi, Nico. She was asking me, I think it was last night or night before last, well, where was Nico? I didn't see her. I said, we'll see her. She'll be there. So, okay, love you guys. Looking forward to Friday evening. We're getting real close to finishing up Revelation. We'll be in chapter 19 and 19, 20, 21, 22.
Right there on the wall on this side.
And everything is coming to fulfillment in Revelation. All those loose ends and cliffhangers that everybody's been complaining about are coming to fruition. And what's better is we're getting to live it. We're getting ready to live it.
Here's
We
a
are living it.
just a headline that you might be interested. It's somebody, I don't know where this comes from. US loses to China in shocking war games.
Mhm.
Didn't shock me.
Our last meeting, I think it was our last meeting together, I was telling you about the difficulty that we have trying to rearm. We are shipping, I forgot how many, I think 15,155 millimeter artillery shells a month to Ukraine. That's enough for one day. Okay, but that's an entire month's production. According to the Pentagon's Defense Logistics Program, it will be 4 years before we can begin producing 155 millimeter artillery shells in any quantity of excess. We don't have them to produce. We don't have the tooling to produce them. So we can only go with the amount of tooling that we have now. 20 nations out of 30 of NATO said, look, we're tapped out. We got nothing else we can give Ukraine. And yesterday, or day before yesterday, it came out that England, Great Britain's army is at the lowest level in over 200 years. And one of their defense ministers said, well, it's really good for nothing but tooling around. And, you know, it's undermanned and they have no weaponry. So we're seeing this defense strategy that we had talked about last time, that all of our resources are being drained. Our resources, and 2 out of 3 NATO allies are being drained. They just had to stop.
I shared what you said about that earlier this year. And I put that in my newsletter. And if you get that article that's telling you that 20, what did you say, 20 out of 30?
20 out of 30 nations. Yes, that was yesterday, I believe. 20 out of 30 nations.
Yeah, I like that article.
Okay, will do. I'll send it to you. Okay. Shalom, Mishpacha, shalom.
Shalom, y'all.
Shalom.
Shalom,
Shalom.
thank you.
Thank
Shalom.
you.
Stay in Texas, Joe. Thank you.
Shalom. Oh, Nico,
Yes.
have you heard anything from home
Um,
about the?
Daryl, hey, Daryl, do you want to shut the recording off?
Oh, yeah, yeah, thank you,
Thanks.
thank you.